Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Lorcana layer. My name is Garrick, and today we are bringing you some more high-octane LCCC coverage. We have two amazing players playing today. That is Zan Syed and Moyen, two of the best players in the world, but I mean, you get that every single match here in the LCCC. This is, of course, the winners bracket, and winners win, and apparently winners play Sapphire because every single deck remaining in the winners bracket is a Sapphire deck. Kurt Spice was the last remaining holdout that wasn't playing Sapphire, but he got kicked down to the lower bracket by Artabax. And speaking of the lower bracket, there are only two players in that lower bracket that are running non-Sapphire decks. That is Joe Spessy Curly and Kurt Spice, as we just mentioned. Of course, I have JDZ, the one and only, here with me today. JDZ, is this a Sapphire world, and are we just living in it?
I think that's the case. Excuse me. I think that's the case. You see, I have my Sapphire on again because it's all Sapphire all the time. But first, I have to say thank you, Garrick and the Lorcana Lair, for letting me come by. Your dojo is so much more clean and orderly than what I have going on over here at the Quest World Dojo. But I feel so good to be here, and I'm very, very excited. When I checked that my name was going to be on the booth with Garrick, the Lorcana Lair, I had to pinch myself and I had to check the calendar. I see it's April Fool's Day, and I thought it was going to be some kind of mistake that this was something. But I'm so happy to be here with you, man, and I'm looking forward to this game. It's going to be an absolute spectacle, man. So I'm tuned in for it. And yes, we are in a Sapphire world. This is a Sapphire Spring, and if your cards aren't blue, you need to go back to the local game card store and buy some new cards, man. Because that's just where we are right now. It's unfortunate or fortunate if that's your bag.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, you got the Sapphire jacket. I got the steel jacket with the Sapphire tie. We're making it happen. The boys are back in town. You know what I mean?
We we did not coordinate that. We did not
We didn't.
coordinate that. Okay, that literally just happened that way. But Garrett, I'm
That's how
telling you right now,
locked in we
nice
are.
suit. I like the suit. Okay, you're the only person that I think can outdress me. Okay, you can outdrip me. You got the hair going. I'm so sad whenever I see the curls popping. But again, how are you been? How have you feeling? What's your status? How are you, man? I gotta ask.
I'm fantastic. I could be good. I could be better because I've been
Okay.
playtesting. I got a tournament coming up this weekend. I've been playtesting a lot because I haven't been able to play, doing so much casting and all that stuff. So finally getting to play something for this set. And I basically have been spending the whole week just playing into Ruby Sapphire because I think Ruby Sapphire is the best deck, but there's no Ruby Sapphire in the winner's bracket. We'll talk about that later. But I think that Ruby Sapphire has kind of emerged as like, okay, I'm the big dog. Sisu and Sapphire Coil kind of just destroys everything, and I'm playing all these different decks into it and just trying to find something that is okay into it. You know what I mean? Because I feel
Yeah.
like they just remove everything that you play. They just get rid of it. It doesn't matter.
Isn't it
It's
so annoying? Isn't
yeah.
that so annoying? When you get to a certain point, isn't it just so annoying? It
Mm.
feels so oppressive sometimes. But that's why I mean, that's why we do what we do. That's why they print those cards, and that's why that deck is going to be where it is. It is just very, very obnoxious, I must say. But did you find anything? Have you found anything significant to report in your study and in your research on your quest to rid the world of Ruby Sapphire?
I've been reading the ancient texts of the Kiwi deck. I've been doing a lot of that. My teammate Bob was able to get top four and split the top four in the CCS 3K with Kiwi, and he
Hmm.
beat a bunch of Ruby Sapphire on his way to do that. So I've been talking with him a lot. I've been locked into a lot of Harlan videos trying to figure out Kiwi. I've also been playing a lot of Amethyst Steel. I think it's in an okay position to get over the finish line against these decks that are more controlly, just because you can gain so much lore. And then I've
Hmm.
been in the doghouse with the
Oh
dogs,
no,
the
let's
Cherna
go.
dogs, and
Let's go.
I've been playing it a lot. I'll say I am winning a significant amount of the games with the dogs as long as I
Okay.
can get to, right next to the finish line before they get to that 6-7 ink range. Before they start wiping the board, it's not
Absolutely.
bad against Ruby Sapphire. I think it's actually not bad into Ruby, or not Ruby Steel, into Sapphire Steel either, because everything you're playing is an X4, so they deal direct damage to it, and then you just Rapunzel trap them if they don't deal the entire four, bing, bang, boom, you're in there. You draw 3 cards with your Rapunzel. So it's not too bad into that. You just got to get past the Ruby Sapphire, I feel like. But luckily, I've been playing Cloud Kicker in there, and the Prince Philip that has a ward. So they can't touch him.
Oh,
Sisu
okay.
can't get rid of him. The only thing that can get rid of him is Be Prepared if he is readied on the board against that deck. So that's been going great. Basically, if they play Little Sisu, you have to Cloud Kicker it back to their hand. If you don't and they shift, you lose. That's what it's felt
You're
like.
cooked.
But
Oh, that's
that's
true. And I found it in my own studies. I found out this card right here. I don't know if you can see it, but this card right here has been my go-to card to help me.
Okay.
It is a Sapphire card.
Ward.
The Aerial Treasure Collector. It's got ward. It can quest hard. It can take a dime really well. This is my go-to guy to get through these trying times of these Ruby Sapphire because they got to be prepared. And guess what? Some of these, I'm gonna call them. I'm gonna call it like I see it, Garrick. Some of these lunatic Ruby Sapphire players are cutting that Be Prepared card, and guess what? This thing's going through the roof. So buy them now, put them in your deck, see what happens. I think Aerial Treasure Collector is going to be one of those meta busting cards. It's still Sapphire. You're going to have to play Sapphire in your own way, but I think this card is tragically underplayed, and I think people need to buy their copies and get it into their decks. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. If it's ward and it has 3 or more strength, it's good in this meta.
Yeah.
Like it has to be. I've been playing Wendy Darling and Kiwi. She's been crushing it for me. The 3-drop, she's a 3/1 with ward, and she has support. So she quests for 2, and then boom, she bumps up your Pete's or your Smees or your Calhouns. Now they have 6 strength, and you're in there and you're just crushing it. So I've been really liking these ward characters with 3 strength or more. So let's get back into the LCCC here. We have a bracket, which I really want to take a look at and break down and talk about. So let's go ahead and pull that up on the screen right here. You can see it. This is the upper bracket, or the winner's bracket, if you will. This is showing every match thus far and where we are at. So we are currently in round 3. We just had Kurt Spice versus Artabax for the winner's bracket. Artabax was able to take that, and now we have Zan Syed versus Moyen. Like I said, all 3 players playing Sapphire, and funnily enough, we talked about Ruby Sapphire potentially being the best deck in format. We have 3 Sapphire Steel players still remaining, and no Ruby Sapphire players here in the upper bracket. There are a couple down in the lower bracket, but they're going to be knocking each other out, as we just saw DKP knock out Ed. Sailor is out, so it's still holding on down there, but we have DKP versus Frederico next, so there's only going to be one left, I think, at the end of the day, if they make it back to the winner's bracket for the final.
And that is incredible how that happens from time to time. And on the inverse of that, I did cover a tournament this weekend. Shout out to 20 Lore Pro and shout out to WCC. They held a double 5K tournament up in Milwaukee, or in the Milwaukee area, in the Fond du Lac area. And it was a stellar event. A lot of these great players that you see here in the LCCC were in attendance at that event. And it was the complete inverse. There was no Sapphire Steel in the top 16 of that second day of play, and I was just so bewildered and perplexed. It was rich with Ruby Sapphire, but there was no Sapphire Steel in the top 16, and I just did not understand how that could happen, because this deck is so potent, powerful, and dynamic, and it's capable of doing a lot of great things in this game, and it's quite consistent. So seeing how that happens, I don't know if it's some kind of glitch in the matrix. I don't know if it's some type of anomaly, or maybe the meta could be starting to settle and players are starting to adapt new strategy and find ways to crack open this meta. But I think that Ruby Sapphire is still incredibly strong. I think Sapphire Steel is still incredibly strong, and I'm not surprised that the outcome has come this way and the players are playing these decks for a specific reason, because it is almost in that, not necessarily tier 0, but it's definitely almost tier 0.5 Sapphire. And it's to the point where if you don't have Sapphire in your deck, are you putting yourself at a strategic disadvantage? That's a possibility, and that's a conversation that I think we probably could have, and a lot of people might not be ready to have that type of conversation.
Yeah, I tried to sort of start that conversation, I think, on Twitter this morning, as there was an interesting comment on one of the Forbidden Mountain posts about the Sapphire meta, where they basically said, like, okay, we don't need any erratas, we don't need any bans, we don't need any restrictions, we don't need anything like that, because, you know, the deck is powerful. Obviously, Sapphire decks are extremely dominant right now, but Ruby Sapphire used to be dominant, Emerald Steel was dominant, and then I was like, all right, let me fact check you real quick, because since Bucky was errated, 27% of the top 64 in DLC Vegas was Ruby Sapphire, the highest number. 21% in Seattle of the top 64, which was the highest representation. 22% in Birmingham, the highest representation. 34% total decks represented in the European Championship by Ruby Sapphire, and 32% represented by the North American Championship is Ruby Sapphire. All those numbers are above 20%, and we're into the 30% totals for the championships. It's just an insane amount with a crazy, crazy high conversion rate. So I think since Bucky was errated, this deck has been by far the best deck. Now, has it won every single challenge? No. But it has been the most consistent deck to get you into day 2, and that is basically indisputable. Did Ruby Amethyst beat this deck pretty consistently throughout the Lorcana challenges? Yes, but that was, in my opinion, trying not to be biased as a Ruby Amethyst player, a good thing, because there was one deck that could keep the boogeyman, quote-unquote, in check. And now it doesn't seem like there's anybody that can keep these Sapphire decks in check, and I think that is the issue that players are running into, and why we're seeing so much Sapphire in every single tournament just at the top. Whether it's Sapphire Steel or Ruby Sapphire, I can tell you this much. They're playing Popsicles, they're playing Hyrims, they're playing Tamatoas, and they're playing Lucky Dimes. Those are all Sapphire cards.
And it is so funny that you bring that up, because right now, in my opinion, it is the apex predator. It is the deck that no one wants to see, but you're definitely going to see it. So if you're showing up to your tournament, you better have a plan to encounter Ruby Sapphire. And I do agree with you. And to mention, shout out to the Forbidden Mountain, shout out to Dan. I was actually on his podcast this morning, like today. I was hanging out with him on his Wake Up Early on Tuesday podcast that he does. And I had so much fun. And we talked about a lot of these same subjects, but I'll kind of preface some of the ideas is that or just kind of go back over some of those same things that we discussed. But Ruby Sapphire is not the fact that it's the problem. It's just that the way that the gameplay goes, how the deck runs, it takes so long to get the game done. It is just not a fun experience. And we have to really keep in mind that who this game is for, who these rules are for, who's actually playing. You have this highly contested competitive field, which is what we're focused on today here at the LCCC. But this is such a small portion of the community of Disney Lorcana. You have to think about the larger pool that is on the periphery, on the edges of this competitive scene, who may never take it serious, who may never go to this large DLCs or these huge tournaments, or like the CCSs and the WCCs and the SSGs and the Ink and all that kind of stuff. They may never go to those, but they will go to set champs. And those players that I'm talking about, they're the ones who are going to be buying the products. They're the ones who are going to be buying the games. They're the ones who are going to move the market. So when they show up, or when they stop showing up because they're constantly playing against Ruby Sapphire all day, and it's just such an unfun experience, they're going to stop showing up, and then you're going to have a tremendous problem. So I think it might be time to make something happen. I don't know if that comes in terms of a set rotation, a ban list, an errata, or what, but this is to the point beyond Bucky. You did the research. It's beyond Bucky. We're at a higher clip than Bucky. So maybe that might be something that they really need to look into and address.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I don't think the player base at large would like to see an errata. I think they would just rather see a ban straight up. That way the card is just out. Whatever card that they want. I'm personally in the Hiram camp. I know some people are saying ban Potsicle, but I mean, Hiram is the one that's drawing the 2. He's hard to get off the board. He might draw 4. Popsicle is a nice cycle, but it's just a cantrip at the end of the day, and I think it's kind of harmless without Hiram. But I'm not one of these top players. I'd like to see what they think, but I mean, Zan has been on the ban Popsicle wave for a while now. So yeah, I totally agree with that assessment. Playing against Ruby Sapphire has, in my locals and in my play testing with my friends and my team, it's gotten to the point where like the players I'm playing against are really good, and we're trying to find something that can combat it a little bit better. And it just feels to me, I'm getting the same feeling that I was getting when I was playing against Bucky. It's just when it works, it just puts you in a vice grip that is so unfun, like you were saying,
Yeah.
where it just gets to the point where you're just like, I don't want to play against this deck. I just don't want to do it. So maybe I'll just wait until it's gone. But thankfully, we don't have any Ruby Sapphire beatdowns in this, and like I said, Ruby Sapphire has been getting smacked around a little bit by Sapphire Steel. So let's take a look at these two Sapphire Steel players. Let's start with Zan Syed, one of the most accomplished players in the history of Disney Lorcana. JDZ, I'll let you take this. Tell us about Zan and Zan's deck.
All right, first, I gotta say, you know what I'm saying? I am a fan. I am a stan of Zan. Okay, there are some
Okay.
people who are going to
Bars.
be anti-Zan as anything, but there's always going to be your fans. And consider me a complete Zan stan, leader of the fan club. I am a huge supporter of him. He did come by my program and he did talk about, I got to know him and talk about his accomplishments and his approach to the game. Absolutely switched on player, completely locked in, laser focused. I'm talking triple Mickey Mouse winner. Okay, Garrick, I've never held a Mickey Mouse in my hand at all. I haven't even seen one in person. Okay, man's got three in his possession, and that is absolutely incredible in a one calendar season. Okay, you're talking DLC Vegas. He stood on the podium there, and he got all the way up to top four of the national tournament. Oh, by the way, we got a top 32 in DLC, and we got a top four in Atlanta, and we got a top 64 in DLC Toronto. So you're talking consistency at a clip that we just have not seen in this game so far, especially in this first year. A lot of experience, strong pedigree coming in from Magic the Gathering, found his way in this Lorcana, and he just built to grind. That's one of the things he said in his interview that I did with him. He said, "I've been grinding because I had to grind. I had to grind to eat, but now I'm in an accomplished place. I just don't know how to turn it off. I'm just going to grind, 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 grind until he gets to the finish line." And he's going to be grinding this time on Sapphire Steel because he believes that it is, in fact, the best deck in Disney Lorcana for this format. He's had a different variety of decks that he's been kind of tampering with. We saw the Oswald stuff, but now he's more on this Scrooge McDuck Tipo package that you see. We got the one of Hades, and we have 8 total Tamatoas. I think the deck is super cool. I think this deck is super consistent. It seems very streamlined. We are keeping that vision of the future in the deck, which I think is another great pick. You have the Tamatoa 6 up. You can play Vision, grab their lucky dime, quest, put the dime in play for free. I think that's heads up. Cash money dueling. And I can't say enough about this play. And I will give one more incredible shout out to Zan Syed because I was in the booth again, as I stated, covering the WCC event. He is a member of I keep want to say West Coast Custom because of WCC. I don't know why. The World Class Cards organization, they were kind of hosting that event. And in between Saturday and Sunday, Zan got 2-0'd by, from what I understand, is a Buffalo Wild Wings or maybe a Little Caesars Pizza. One of those things 2-0'd Zan Syed off the field, and he was not feeling very well. He had a debilitating injury. He was not able to finish that tournament. He actually had to drop out, but he did sit down on the dojo and he was on stream playing as hard as he could for that event. And he's such a professional. He was still sitting there signing cards, being a community representative. And I thought that was just so admirable, man. So a lot of people got their hate, but I'm gonna give the man his roses because I think he's incredible talent. And I'm excited that I got a chance to be in the booth to watch this Illuminator get loose with it. And I'm excited to see what he can do as he's going to be faced off against Moyen, who a lot of people might not know Moyen. I know Moyen. You know Moyen. Tell me more about Moyen and what he's trying to do in this matchup with Zan Sayed.
Yeah, Moyen is another one of those very accomplished players previous to Disney Lorcana. I've been following Moyen for a long, long time, so I'm a super big fan. He's always put out content that has been super helpful to the community, just as Zan has. Both have their Sapphire Steel guides out right now. I can't attest to either's quality because I haven't purchased them myself. I'm more of a Jonathan Lamb acolyte, if you will.
Okay.
But I am a big fan of both Zan and Moyen, so if you like their playstyle, I'm sure that their guides are well worth it. But Moyen, of course, is not only accomplished in other games, but very accomplished in Disney Lorcana as well. Of course, he made it to the top 32 in the European Championship. He made it at multiple top cuts at the Disney Lorcana Challenges, not to mention he was top cut, yes, you're reading that right, in Seattle. We have an EU player that flew all the way out to Seattle, and he was the definite talk of that tournament. I know you were there, JDZ. A lot of people talking about Moyen being there, talking about Alphos being there. Spessy was there. It was really the European invasion. Shout out to the Beatles. And they were doing their thing, and they were crushing it out there on the floor for the last DLC of the season before the Continental Championships. So it was really cool to see Moyen in the States. Both he and Zan, super committed players, willing to fly here and there, as Zan flew all the way out to Disney World Paris, I believe, to compete in the last chance qualifier over there, because he didn't do any of the DLCs. So why not do the LCQ twice? And maybe if he didn't sit in the wrong seat, he could have potentially made it.
Two national invites.
Yeah.
And that is so incredible. I think that is such a phenomenal point. I think these pro player, they throw this term pro player around a lot. And I think it's important to note that, like, if you want to have that role, you got to hit the road. You got to be out here moving. You got to be willing to put the risk up. You got to really be willing to put your travel. You got to get into the plane. You got to drive. You got to fly. You have to go to these tournaments, and you have to prove it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is the separating measure between a pro player and a good player, because you have to prove it. And these players, as you stated, they're out here proving it day in and day out. They're showing up. They're playing in so many tournaments. Like I said, Zan, he's always down in Southside Gaming. He's always in Charlie Collectible. He's up in Milwaukee. He's going everywhere because he's like, I got to get the reps. I got to get the grind. I have to earn it. And Moyen the same way. If you're willing to travel internationally, DKP, same thing, willing to internationally travel to put your chops up, then that's how you can say that I'm a pro level player. So I think that's what it takes. Everyone can't do it. There is a little bit of privilege there. I understand. But if you want to chop with the best, that's what you have to do. You have to get out there and find those high level reps. And shout out to both of them for demonstrating that. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a phenomenal game.
Yeah.
Garrick. I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Yeah, I totally agree. If you want to be considered one of the best, you have to play in these events. And of course, people in the early days had it a little bit easier with various abilities to play basically endlessly as much as you want, but now it's a little bit different. I would recommend, if you want to be one of these players and you want to compete at the highest level, maybe you can't always fly out to Atlanta to compete in the CCS every few months. You can't fly to Wisconsin, but keep an eye on your local schedule or semi-local schedule. You're within 2, 3, 4, 5 hours. Maybe sometimes you might have to drive, but it's worth it if you want to be one of the best. See if the SCG is coming towards you. See if there's a 1K, a 2K, a box tournament, an enchanted tournament, whatever. If you want to be one of these players, travel locally, start winning a little bit, get some money in your pocket, go a little further, and go a little further. Speaking of Jonathan Lamb, who is a semi-local player to me, absolutely love him. He was out here grinding the SCG circuit. He was going to the DLCs. He was able to make one of the top cuts, and now you see him. He's also traveling. Went to Australia to try and make it into Worlds. He was at SSG. Then he went to CCS. Then he went to World Class Cards Tournament in Wisconsin, and now this week, he's going to SSG again. So, it's definitely attainable. You just got to get your foot in the door, start small, and really, work your way up and put in the reps. Like you said, it's something you got to do. You got to play against the best if you want to get better, and losing, I say, is the best teacher. Let's take a look at Moyen's deck as compared to Zan's. They're both playing the same color combination as we mentioned, but the decks are a little bit different. Moyen opting for fewer Vision of the Future, which is interesting, and he also has triple Babooms in here. He's going on the full 4 of on the Tipo, and interesting here, he is running the Cogsworth, which I find to be incredibly interesting. I think that definitely helps in these sort of mirror matches. He knows that he's going up against a lot of Sapphire and Steel. You take a look at the bracket, every single other player he could have potentially played against, from Kurt to Artabax to Zan, we're all playing Steel. So I think Cogsworth is a nice little addition here to the deck to metagame this tournament a little bit, as they have been allowed to change their decks in between. So Moyen's running fewer of the Zeus. He is not running that shield of Arendelle, and he cut down on the vision of the future so he could fit these Cogsworths in. And I think it may prove to be a winning strategy. How do you feel about the Cogsworth in Moyen's deck?
I'm telling you, as an old school Sapphire Steel player, I'll tell you right now, Cogsworth is so good versus Steel. He completely is in the mirror. It is one of the strongest cards that you could ever ask for because all of your Steel base removal, guess what? It's not going to work. Your Storm is not going to rage on. Your Strength is not going to have any fire, and your Zeus might not come along. You're going to, especially if you can double up. If you can get a double Cogsworth on the board, there is nothing Zan can do. You except for you can't even hate it. You can't do anything. You're gonna have to just race with Tamatoa and Dime and hope for the best. So if you get into this mid game situation and those Tamatoas start, I mean, excuse me, those Cogsworth start getting established, and then you get the Scrooges set up. Scrooge can turn into a battering around with a resist. It feels very strong, competent, and capable. So I think that is a card that I'm strongly going to be looking at for Moyen. I'm sure Moyen is going to be trying everything he can to get those Cogsworth onto the board as efficiently as possible. And I think he can kind of use that as a potential win condition. Looking at Zan's deck, you are maxed on your strength of rage and fire. You're maxed on your strength of, or storm rage on, and you have those three Zeus. I'm just because if it's gonna be hedge on those Cogsworth. So if you can negotiate around those, I'm sure Zan is looking at that and understanding that that might have a little bit of an impact on this matchup, and you're trying to avoid that, or maybe you can figure out a way to play around that. I think Moyen is good enough to understand I'm going to load this Cogsworth, ride it, never exert it until it's time to potentially win the game. So that's a great point. I think Cogsworth is going to be the story of the day.
Yeah, I really like Moyen's deck building. I think all of these high level players are incredibly good at figuring out, okay, what am I going to likely see in this tournament? What is the best deck to bring against that meta share? You know, we talk about Ed, who was also in the LCCC, one of the great deck builders of the game, and was able to do that very thing with his Ruby Amethyst build during the North American Championships. Players like Zan, who was able to bring back Emerald Steel when we thought after Bucky it was gone. And
Mm-hmm.
he and Lorcana Bro, I know, we're working on this Emerald Steel list, and then a select group of players who were in the know knew to bring that deck, and they absolutely ran through the DLCs. We saw players like Wonderland working alongside these players to make adjustments to these decks as well and have great success with them. And that's what I really love about watching these high level players and their deck building. And that's why I really like the changes of the
Mm-hmm.
LCCC for this second iteration that we have. The players being able to change their decks from round to round has been very, very interesting, and I think it honestly helps the greater player base figure out what they need to do to change their decks into their expected local metagame. You see players like Artibax who start playing mid-range Sapphire Steel, and he's like, I'm going to play Lucky Dimes in round three.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you could just make these crazy changes or these niche changes to make your deck that much better into what you expect to see. What do you think about the Babooms here?
I think the Babooms, they're good tech. I think they're inkable, and they are the issue with Fire the Cannons, which I am a big fan of. I think personally I prefer Fire the Cannons over Baboom. But to your point, in certain situations, a Fire the Cannon type effect or a two damage cross the board effect might not be the best scenario, especially against Ruby Sapphire and things of that sort. You could have potentially found yourself against an Emerald Steel. I know Kurt was around, so maybe that was. I know he's not. He's in the down bracket right now, but maybe if against a Diablo, I would love to have as many Babooms as you're willing to allow me to put legally into my deck. But in a situation where the card isn't great, you can just ink it and keep
Yeah.
moving. But if you find yourself in a situation where like, wow, if I could just put two more damage on this Scrooge, I'm on my way and I'm not losing that much tempo. If I could just put two more damage on that Maui Half Shark to clear him, or two more damage on that Maleficent Dragon, or two more damage on the Sisu, or break up this shift line, or take out this Hiram, I'm willing to take a little bit of tempo loss to do that. And I think the card is absolutely great. So I think more people should look more at Baboom or these fire to cannon type effects, because those type effects have been removed because they just don't seem that strong. But I think it's a great pick to put into this deck because it's really very high upside, very little low side, and I think the value is there.
Yeah, I mean, you also have to consider he didn't know he was playing Zan, right? He knew he was playing
Yeah,
one of these three players, and the boom. I mean, there was a deck playing Diablo and playing
yeah,
Ursula too. So if they
yeah.
grab your Storm or they grab your Strength, Diablo's not ever getting off
Oh,
the
that's
board,
right.
and
Yeah,
he's
that was
drawing
that
a
was
million
this that was
cards.
this
Yeah.
round, right?
Yep.
That was this round. He could have had Kurt. Yeah, so I'm definitely loading. I'm definitely going to load the babooms, and I'm going to hope because hitting a Diablo, even hitting a baby bird or hitting whatever with this baboom just feels so strong, and it also can't get snatched by the Ursula too. So
Yeah.
I love the choice. I don't hate it at all.
Yeah, I mean, again, that just goes to show the high level deck building that we're seeing on display here because Moyen is noticing that, hey, we're playing all Sapphire and maybe there's going to be some Diablos in there. I want to be able to play into every single opponent that I'm going to have here, and I don't want to auto lose to anything. I want my deck to be able to beat everyone in this round, and I think he has assembled a deck here that can definitely do that. Now, is it the most completely optimized version of Sapphire Steel? I don't know for sure. I think maybe Zan's is going to feel a bit stronger in the mirror if I had to guess, but I really am a big fan of this Cogsworth, and I'm really interested to see how it is able to perform. I'm curious to know from Moyen as well, is this a card that you planned on playing in this Sapphire Steel mirror, or did you put that in alongside the Babooms in case you went up against that that Steel Emerald discard deck? I'll be really interested to see what he thinks. Are we going to see the Cogsworth in the ink or on the board?
I think you got to play. I do. That will be an interesting take. I think it still has tremendous value because if you look at Zan's deck, I don't know if it's on the screen right now, but if you look at Zan's deck, what if he has a Cogsworth set up? What can Zan do? What else do you have? How can you get rid of it? There's no card in your deck that can clear that card. I
Yeah.
mean, you can if he exerts it, you can challenge it maybe with the Tamatoa. But if you're challenging my Cogsworth with the Tamatoa, then and you're not questing it, or if you're not tapping dime on it, or exerting a dime and using its effect for Tamatoa, I'm okay with that because the game has it's at that position. The game is so lost for you that it doesn't even matter. So I'm thinking that Moyen's going to put these Cogsworths into great effect, and if Zan sees a Cogsworth up on the field, he's going to have a little bit of inclination. You might see one get inked, but I think he would like to play the Cogsworth. I could very well be wrong and just be eating my words right now, and hopefully that doesn't happen. But I'm personally looking forward to this game because I don't know if you know this. Okay, and I don't want to get the drama llama raised up,
Mm-hmm.
but these two players have had a little bit of history in the past. I know,
Yep.
like you said, they're both in media as well. They're both very strong players, but they're also very strong content creators. And in those content creation spaces, they've had some words. So this is a little bit of a chip. It's a little bit of chippiness. Nothing too crazy, nothing too over the top, but there is a bit of chippiness in this type of thing. So I'm certain that when people saw this matchup, they were like, "Ooh, that's going to be a little
Oh,
spicy one. That's a little
yeah.
spice. That's going to be a little spicy meatball right there." So I'm looking forward to that little aspect of it too, for my little tea sipping self as I'm trying to see how that thing comes through, man. What do you know about that? What do you think about a little bit of intrigue there, a little bit of additional storyline to this matchup?
JDZ, I love it. I mean, I
Okay.
I grew up playing competitive sports. I grew up watching competitive sports, and what I really love is some trash talk. There's nothing wrong with
Mm-hmm.
it. I think it's fun. First of all, and if it's done in good fun, then I think it can just be a benefit for everyone, especially, if they're able to go back and forth, nobody crosses any lines, which has definitely not happened up to this point. But a little bit of trash talk can elevate these sort of matchups, and it's not necessarily even trash talk that these players are doing. But I think in any sort of competitive scene, that sort of stuff is going to come up naturally. These are two of the most competitive players in the world. They want to win, and yeah, to be one of these players, you have to have that competitive fervor, and you have to think you're the
Mm-hmm.
best, and you have to believe that you're the best. And it all started with what has now become a pretty notorious tweet by Zan. At the beginning of the set, he had said, "Hey, I got this deck. It's 50-0 in testing. Oswald is him, and yeah, this deck is amazing." Moyen saw that and had some words to say about it on the podcast. Basically, I'll paraphrase here. If you want to go watch the podcast and get the full context, I encourage you to do so. But Moyen was basically like, if you're going 50-0 in testing, it's possible to do that. It's not very likely. The odds that you go 50-0 without bricking is super low. And he basically said, if you're going 50-0, then maybe you need to up your playtesting partners and stop playing with 5-year-olds. So
Oh,
after that, Zan put out another tweet that he was 51-0 and that he is upgraded to playing 10-year-olds. So that's double the experience, double the lifespan, you know what I mean? So double the competitiveness. But yeah, I love the back and forth between these two players. And later on, Moyen commentated, I believe, the first match that Zan had, and that was after all of this talk had happened, and they had a great interview and everything was fine. But I love it. I think maybe we need some more. You know, we've had the sort of like jokey trash talk with like Lorcana Villain and like the Forbidden Mountain players and things like that. But I think like some serious, semi-serious trash talk is good for the game, and it makes these matches more interesting, as you said.
100%. And and to your point, I can't emphasize enough. I don't ever want this thing to be like super overtly personal and
Yeah,
just like
yeah.
actually serious, where people are really being vindictive and really trying to hurt each other's feelings and really trying to tear people down. I don't want that at all. But I do love a little bit of edge, a little bit of chippiness, because it just adds to the intrigue. It makes it so much fun. And I thought that whole story was just really hilarious. The whole 50-0 thing kind of became a meme all the way up until Zan took that deck to the until it actually went on a. I mean, because he could have really pied himself in the face there. He
Yeah.
really could have really ate some serious crow there if he had just went to that tournament and had a terrible showing. But that deck actually came down there and completely dominated that space. And Jeremy actually won that event with that very same strategy, and it actually turned out to be quite strong. So those things are really great. And that's another thing that Zan didn't mention, as like shaping the metagame and also trying to stay ahead of the game. To your point, you said, hey, these players always figure out a way to deduce what's happening in the meta and put the cards in the deck to best tackle the meta. Well, Zan says, I'm trying to shape the meta, and then once I shape it, I can then reshape it and stay ahead, and that'll give me a tactical advantage. So I think that's a good way to think about it, being very critical on that approach, and I am here for it. So I'm loving it. I'm looking forward to the story.
Yeah, 100%. I just think we need a little bit more of that. And I think the Podcana podcast has been great. I think they are one of the groups and one of the outlets that has been really candid with their opinions. And I appreciate that.
Hmm.
I think it's really helpful to be completely honest and upfront about how you feel about things without being like necessarily like overtly positive, like everything's good, everything's perfect. There's, you know, there what's the saying from Avatar, the bossing saying? You know what I'm talking
No,
about?
no, no war and bossing saying.
Exactly. Yeah, there
I'm like that. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, there I
That's funny.
think doing that is just as bad as being or not just as bad, but it's there is such a thing as toxic positivity, as is there toxic negativity. Obviously the negativity is worse, but I love when players are open, honest about that thing, and that's why Podcan I think is really really great. But like you said, both of these players extremely high level, and both have the ability to completely shape the meta. I know that in the early days of Lorcana, Podcana was really, really on the forefront of things, and people were listening to everything that they had to say,
Hmm.
especially during Inklands and the beginning of Ursula's return. I think they were a huge resource in shaping what the meta was going to be, because everybody basically hung on every word that Moyen would say. And you know, I think that is valuable. Moyen is one of the best players in the game, and when he speaks, I think it's worthwhile to listen up. But now, currently, we're in Arcasia's Island, and we have so many different high-level players, best players in the world, that are constantly opening up and speaking about what they think the best decks are, and being very open and honest and transparent about the game. And I think that just makes everybody better. It makes everybody stronger at the game, and you know, iron sharpens iron at the end of the day.
Um, Absolutely, absolutely, and I'm here for it. I think that is a great feature. And Garrick, to your point, I'm gonna keep pushing. Every time I sit down and talk to these players, or if I find myself in the booth and I'm interviewing a player, and they don't have some type of social media presence, or they're not doing some type of content creation, they don't have a Metafy, they don't have anything like that. I'm gonna actually try to hold them accountable and say, hey. You're doing not only yourself a disservice, but you're almost doing the community a disservice by not putting that stuff out there because you have a vast amount of information and you may not play Lorcana forever. You might lose interest and you might quit tomorrow, and that information is going to be gone. So you need to take the time now to start putting that stuff out there and sharing that information with the world, either through Metafy or through YouTube or through Twitch, whatever you want to do. Write a book, or give me the script, and I'll put it on my YouTube channel. If you don't want, come by my channel, and I'll get out of the way and just let you talk because it's not for me. It's not about the clicks and views. It's not about the monetization or any of that kind of stuff. I just need a place to have this information readily accessible for the people that want it because I'm not playing for myself. I'm not doing it for me. It's the next generation because I feel in my core that this game it's only going to go to a place that no one knows where this game can be. The opportunities are endless, and we need to start here by planting very, very strong seeds with super deep roots. And it starts with these players. It starts here with the LCCC and this event. In 5, 6 years, people are going to look back at this footage and see Garrick over here with the beautiful curls popping. I'm so jealous. Every time I see these curls, I just want to fight, dude. I just want to fight. Kid, and they're gonna see your boy JDZ, and I'm like, wow, I remember that LCCC. Now we got our hover disc, and we're playing with our, playing in the future with our PCs or whatever. We don't even need this stuff anymore, and it's gonna be great, man. So, I'm so in on the content stuff, and I tune into everything that I can to try to support as many content creators as possible.
Yeah, I mean, we're super early, and I'm doing like I did a video essay on the rise and fall of Bucky Squirrel Squeak Tutor, and that took a lot of
Hmm.
research and figuring out and finding old videos and call them old. I mean, the game's not even that hasn't even been out that long, like barely a year, right? So, um, this information is super important to have and have it be archived, especially for people that want to come back and look at it later, that get into the game at a later point, or people that just want to go down memory lane. And whether that is just, content creators making things for the love of the community, or the best players in the world making guides to help people out, go back and be like, wow, that was a crazy time where every single person was playing Sapphire and
Yeah, go figure. Who'd have thought? Because you'll look back on it maybe in the future. Again, that'll be so funny if this Sapphire were if this reign of Sapphire keeps going and we got 1,000 days of darkness and Sapphire is the new overlord of the game, and we look back and we're like, oh, Sapphire Steel has never won a DLC. Those jokes have got to stop, okay? Because I think people they're listening to the memes and they're listening to the jokes, and that's why they're printing these cards like this because they're like, oh, Sapphire Steel never won a DLC and only has 3% of the field. Yeah, let's make him broken, and that's what happens. They print this stuff, and now we have this situation that we have on our hands. So let's stop with the jokes. Let's get Sapphire Steel in the winner's circle of a DLC, and let's bring balance back to the Force.
yeah,
Okay, let's make it happen.
they should print better like steel cards then, because every time they pick cracked out Sapphire cards, it makes Ruby Sapphire better, and they've already won one.
There you go. Exactly. I love it. Let's get Ruby Emerald on the map. Okay,
Yeah.
let's get freaking. We have Amethyst Emerald already. Amethyst and Amber has already had one. We don't
Hmm.
have an Amethyst Ruby yet. Let's get Amethyst Ruby on the map. Let's
Let's
figure this
get
thing out.
Ruby Steel. They
Ruby
need some
Steel,
card
come
draw.
on.
They need some card draw. I want that deck to be good so bad. It needs to draw
It's so
cards.
close.
All it can do
It
is
so close.
dock, draw 2, discard your hand, or Whole New World, discard your hand, draw 7. That's basically the
Yeah.
only two options, and they're not great. So
Yeah.
I mean, obviously both good cards, but you need something more consistent for the deck to be a factor, which is why the Kiwi deck is so good. It's basically got a similar strategy: put a bunch of characters on the board, go wide, but Kiwi can play Hiram, and Hiram draws
Yeah.
2 cards, 4 cards, 6 cards if he's not able to be removed. Doc can only do so much, especially if you're not playing with Amethyst and you play Doc, bounce Doc, play Doc, right? So Ruby, Steel, let's get some card draw in there, and then Ruby Emerald as well is another one, because when you're playing Ruby Emerald, it's really like, all right, what are your draw engines here? Well, Diablo, obviously you have to play
Yeah.
Diablo, or
Got Clarabelle.
yeah, Clarabelle. there are options there for sure. But Ruby and Steel, they're starving.
They're
they're
hurting
they're
bad. They're hurt.
thirsty. Yeah.
They're hurting bad. And also, I would even go. I personally like Amber and Ruby. I think those colors just look really good together. I love red and yellow together.
Shout out to Humble
McDonald's, you know what I'm saying?
trying
Shout
to
out to
keep.
Mickey D. Shout out
Yeah.
to shout out to Humble. Shout out to Mickey D. I like a little bit
Ba
of
ba
Ruby
ba ba
and
ba.
Amber together. I would love to see a Ruby Amber song deck. I think we could make it happen, but it's just missing critical components. They do have Rapunzel, they do have some draw, but it just doesn't get played enough because it's just not good enough. And we have these super monolith style decks like Ruby Sapphire and Sapphire Steel right now. Why would I even bother going to the lab and train these colors or try to build up these decks because there's no value there in it for me. So I'm just gonna play what's good and not waste my time. Because like you said, Garrick, there's tournaments that we have to go to. You're traveling from Germany. Shout out DKP. You're traveling from Virginia. Shout out to Lamb. You're traveling from Atlanta. You're traveling from all over the world, thousands of miles. I'm not about to do that on a freaking on a Hail Mary. I want the sure thing. I need to maximize my opportunity to win. So of course I'm going to ride the best, strongest possible horse I can instead of taking a chance on an unknown entity. Whereas if they just stop making these broken cards or balance the game a little bit more, you can have so much more variety, and that is the spice of life. And as a borderline competitive player, more casual player, I love a nice mixed bag. I love looking at a tournament report and seeing all the colors represented and 16 different decks. I love that when that happens. And on the opposite end, I really don't like it when you have only 2 decks at the top for all 16 decks, and it just makes the streams less exciting. It makes the gameplay less exciting. It's very repetitive, and Ruby Sapphire mirrors just look really ugly. I'm not gonna lie, they just don't look good to me. So it is what it is. That's just my bias. I'll get off my soapbox.
Yeah. I mean, I agree. Let's expand it a little bit. But you know what's interesting? As we wait for the players here in the go ahead, uh, were you able to check out, not to plug my own stuff or anything like that, but were you able to check out my most recent video, the Ruby
I
Amethyst
did. The
State
one you
of?
did with that video was amazing. The one
Yep.
with you and
Thank you. Thank
Villain
you. Thank
and
you.
Ed and that video was so good, Garrick. I was like I love that. It was almost like a behind the music of type feel to it, like a documentary, like a guerrilla documentary interview style video. I had so much fun watching that video, and it was just like living history. It was so cool. I liked the way you did that.
Thank you. Appreciate it. But I bring up the video because just to talk about fun topics and cards, crazy cards, and some colors needing more stuff. Terrace brought up an interesting theory in that, and I will pose it to anybody that hasn't seen the video. You know how Lorcana makes these sort of like theme cards together with all the colors? Each color gets one, where we have the
Hmm.
chromacons, we have the
The coils.
coils, right? He
Hmm.
he was like, okay, what if they're doing that, but they're doing it one set at a time for one ink color per set, and they're making a 6-drop inkable legendary with a million lines of text that is just absolutely cracked out of this world. And I was like, okay,
Uh-huh.
talk me through it. Well, what are we talking about here? He's like, okay, last set, Maui Shark came in,
Okay.
knocked the wall down, one of the best cards in the game. This set, 6-drop inkable sapphire card, Tamatoa, happy as a clam. So if we get another 6-drop that is absolutely crazy next set, it might be coming true.
If it's honestly, I can support that. I like that. If that's what they're doing, I would prefer a little bit of transparency. I'm not gonna lie. If that's what they want to do, I'm fine with it. But tell me why that card better be named Jafar, okay? Jafar,
Yeah,
wearer
Amethyst
of the
Jafar.
Hexwell Crown. Amethyst Jafar, wearer of the Hexwell Crown, and it better be bonkers, broken, insane, destroying the meta type strat. I'm with it. If that's the case, sign me up.
I
I'll
wanted
take
to
it.
I wanted to
Oh,
break the Vanish cards. Vanish was
yes.
cool. It's cool, but right now it's kind of unplayable other than the Cobra because you get the immediate 2 lore. All the other ones can't really play them. We need a character that basically doesn't allow them to be removed or gives them ward or something, right? Like well, maybe not that crazy, but they need a little bit more support, and I'm sure we'll get that in the reign of Jafar. That's going to be his whole thing. He's going to be making illusions, yada, 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 casting spells. So hopefully we get some support for the Vanish mechanic. But I think Jafar, Amethyst, or Steel Jafar, or Dual Ink, I guess, whatever, 6-drop, inkable, crazy, as long as it's not Sapphire and Ruby, I think we'll be okay.
Absolutely. But I think the players might be ready. I'm looking at the screen and
Yeah,
I don't know
same,
if you're
same.
ready, but I'm
I'm
ready.
ready.
I don't know if Judge Phil is ready, but Garrick, I think it's time. It is time to play. We got Zan Syed. We have Moyen. We have three-time Mickey winner is in the building. Zan Syed is ready to play, man. So I think it is if you're
Yep.
ready, let's do this.
The game is up on your screens right now, ladies and gentlemen. We have Zan Syed going up against Moyen, and look at that mat. That is
Ooh,
gorgeous. That
I
is
love that, Matt.
that's
Oh
the
my goodness.
D23 mat. The 2024.
Fla- I,
That is beautiful.
I feel extremely flexed on right now. I am not gonna lie. It's hollow foil too. It's got the cold foil. It's got the reflection. You can see his face in there. He's smiling, having a good old fashioned time. I can't quite hear what they're saying. And looking on Zan's side again, he climbed to the highest point of his home and placed this camera, it seems, as he has this thing all the way up in the mesosphere. It is way up there. You can see the whole thing. And his arm is going to extend from its socket as he has to reach all the way across the table to put this in. And that's what you got to do when you're playing a billion items and your board is just going to get so expansive. You got to really put your camera up on the freaking rooftop in order to get this angle. What is he? I want to see his rig so bad. What is that thing set up on? You think?
It's like it's got like two poles and it has like a bar at the top, and you just mount your camera to it.
Okay.
It's a pretty professional, for sure. Maybe a little zoom wouldn't hurt, but that's
There,
all
there,
right.
there's no way you're telling me that camera's not hooked to his ceiling fan right now. There's no chance it's not at the highest point on his actual. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, by the way. But it does look good, and we can see there is a bit of glare as it looks like Zan Syed has won the dice roll and is electing to go first as
I
we are
believe
going ahead and
Moyen
committing those
won.
altars.
I
Did
thought
Moyen win?
Moyen rolled a 6, Zan rolled a 1.
Oh, I might be mistaken. Okay, so we'll pass that energy right on over. I was mistaken as the altars are still being concluded at this current juncture. It looks like Zan's hanging on to that popsicle tipo. Nice little opening curve. You get into the fishbone quill, and then some other cards that are kind of getting obscured by the shimmer there. Moyen's hand. He's got that boom. Also got ramp. This is going to be a great game as both players have hit all of their markers that you would want to hit. No bell for Zan though.
Yep, we got the turn 1 bell available for Moyen, and like you said, he's got the turn 2 ramp in the sail or the tipo, whichever line he would prefer to take. Does have the baboom in hand. Again, maybe that's not necessarily for this matchup, but can definitely come in big if you need an additional 2 damage somewhere in a pinch. We could get. Oh, we do have the bell and the popsicle for Zan as well. So we
Oh, I
can we
missed
can
it.
go
Okay.
turn 1 bell for both players.
Yeah, this is gonna be a great match. I did get an opportunity to do an LCC match yesterday. I had Spessy versus Mr. Bivens, Zach Bivens, the number one seed, and that match was not that great because Mr. Bivens did have some issues drawing. Shout out to Spessy, played pretty much a 100% flawless game, taking nothing away from him, but Mr. Bivens just wasn't able to play, and I do hate those types of outcomes, but. It seemed like this game, both players are going to at least get to execute their strategy and demonstrate what they're trying to do. As it looks like we are going to start with this bell going down into the inkwell, it
Well,
seems.
maybe they
Interesting
maybe
indeed.
they it was whoever rolls lowest. I don't know, but Moyen definitely rolled a 6 and Zan rolled a 1. So I'm not sure what happened
Yeah.
there, but Zan goes first as we do ink the bell. And we will see. I'm sure we're going to see a popsicle here as he's just fixing his lighting here. Uh,
Yeah, it seemed like we're just trying to get the glare off the screen right now, and I do appreciate the effort from Zan trying to make sure we all have a nice viewing pleasure. And everyone at home, thank you guys for hanging out with us in the LCCC. We are on a delay. I do see some chat coming in, and I do recognize that that is happening. And we're trying to get the glare fixed because I know people get in my comments on YouTube like, "Oh, I cannot watch this with the glare. I hate it here." People in YouTube, you got to chill. I mean, I'm a Twitch guy myself now. I used to be YouTube, now I'm Twitch. But still, you got to just relax a little bit. We're working on it. We're trying to get it right. And thank you for your participation as we are going to ink the bell, play the popsicle. What do you think of that line to
yeah,
start this thing off?
I like it. I don't think you necessarily need the bell on turn 1 in this mirror match, as Moyen draws a second bell. You want to have that popsicle and or fortisphere on the board for that potential high room that you draw. So I think that not playing the bell is a decent move here, as Moyen puts down his fortisphere or popsicle light, and we get into that Cogsworth we were talking about. We'll see how much of a factor the Cogsworth plays in this matchup. Really excited to see what happens with that Cogsworth, as Moyen does decide to go for the turn 1 bell.
I don't hate it, as Zan elects to go the opposite route of that. Maybe I don't know if Zan has a song in his hand for that bell to sing, as we are going to take 2 ink, bring forth the Tipo, and jam another card down to the inkwell. It looks like that was the Scrooge There's no, I'm really having a hard time. Maybe we can get Zan to just turn off that overhead light and put on a little side light, because it might be a little bit difficult for
He's
us to
got
make out what it is.
double Scrooge,
Double
Tamatoa,
Scrooge in
and
hand.
Fishbone. So we do get into the Hiram for Moyen on his side, but he did elect to get rid of that Fortisphere with his bell. So we'll see if he's able to find another item for that Hiram.
And he does have the Scrooge coming in on 4, though, so that's
Yep.
definitely not a bad play. You hire him in this matchup, even putting it down on 4 is not the worst. If you miss it on 4, that's not the worst thing. You can get this Scrooge involved. Scrooge can dig through, find you a 1-cost action, then put it down item, then put it down next turn, and then maybe go hire him on 5 with the popsicle.
Yep.
Still vibrate splendiferously from there, as it looks like Zan is now going to be on the 4 ink turn, probably thinking about getting loose with this Scrooge McDuck hanging on to the Fishbone Quill. Let's see if that's what we're going to elect to do. Maybe get that quill into the inkwell and jam the Scrooge. No, we're putting another Scrooge in, and we'll go 4 into a Scrooge onto the board, checking 4. And it looks like we got
I'm trying to
a
peek
hit.
over. Yep, we got 2 hits here on the Fortisphere. We're going to send that to the bottom. It looked like another bell and a Tamatoa happy as a clam. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's what I saw. So we do have the items online here for Zan.
And there it is. So if you do get to the Hiram next turn, you're going to be on your way, as I don't think you really have a 5-cost play. Maybe you can do a dime setup quill type maneuver if you felt so inclined. If this game does get long, maybe that quill can help continue to move your position along. Maybe that can help set up those Tamatoa dime plays if this thing goes really, really late, which this game looking like it might go the distance, as both players are just jabbing each other out, trying to get to their spot, trying to bend but don't break and set up themselves for the late game, as both of them are favoring these 2 Tamatoas. And I think both of them might get to the point where those Tamatoas become a part of the equation. So Moyen does go Scrooge, hit Popsicle, and that will set up your Hiram next turn if you felt so inclined, or maybe you can bring it down on turn number 6 after followed by this Cogsworth.
Yeah, sending a Zeus, a Hiram, and I'm not sure what the third card was there to the bottom, but does take the opportunity to order those cards. I mean, like you said, this match is probably going to go pretty long, so you might get to those bottom 4. You never know.
Mm-hmm. You never know. With Vision of the Future, anything is possible if the match does kind of go. And these decks both can draw quite well, as Happy as a Clam is going to be in Zan's hand. We're going into that 5th ink turn, as you really don't have much to do. The 5th ink turn in this Sapphire deck is kind of awkward sometimes, as you'll just go ahead and pay 1, get that Fortisphere in, check another card. If
See
you
if
get
he gets a
Hiram here, you're kind of
Hiram.
on your
Nope.
way.
Sale. Not the worst thing in the world to get a sale there.
Yeah, you can sail here if you felt so inclined, and then take a couple ink opportunities, or even still set up that Fishbone Quill if you really wanted to. But most of the time, that Fishbone Quill can just be some quality ink as well. So we'll pay the 3. We will establish the Fishbone Quill, and we're going to rip it here, and we're going to put down the strength into the inkwell. Another inkable card gone. Just trying to advance our position a bit more, and then we are going to deploy the sail. No, we're going to use ink the sail, tap the sail to reveal Bodyguard. Okay, to set up yourself for a Tamatoa. That is a very heads up play. I like that maneuver a lot, coming in from the 3-time Mickey Mouse winner. I enjoy that a lot.
Yep. Uses that ability despite not turning anything sideways, so doesn't get any benefit from that, but sends it to the discard pile so his Tamatoa can grab it up for him and gives him value as he comes into the board, and now you can cycle that card yet again. That is the great power of these Tamatoas and the Fortisphere and Popsicle, respectively. You can, anytime you want, pop that Popsicle, or pop that Fortisphere if you have 1 ink available. So we go into the turn 5 here for Moyen. He's got the option to go with this Popsicle into the Hiram, which is not bad. Was also possibly considering going with the Cogsworth on this turn.
And let's see if we do that. So now I don't think you're going to be able to do it now because you have utilized that 1 ink. So I think you might be
Yep.
all in on establishing the Hiram and getting some quality card draw now. Or, yeah, we're going to ink the sale, go for Hiram Flaversham. We'll pop the Popsicle. Get to. That is very annoying. Oh my goodness, we need to get rid of Popsicle. But I digress. I will digress. I am digressing right now. And now you have options here. You can have this Bell open up the pipes, get her sing on, storm onto the Tipo if you feel so inclined, but then Scrooge McDuck can come on in as batting ram, take down, but then you can go Cogsworth and then defend your Scrooge to take out Scrooge. So this is gamesmanship. This is the thing that we have to see how this turn transpires because you can go plus for plus for plus in this type of situation. Let's see how Moyen elects to break down this position.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see how he's able to leverage this Cogsworth. Really excited about it. We talked about it in the pregame, but I think this is a card that is going to pay dividends in this matchup. It'll allow his Strength of a Raging Fire to be even better more consistently because it'll be harder to get rid of Moyen's characters when the challenges or the songs come down from Zan. And Zan right now looking low on cards, so we'll see what he's able to get here. If he's not able to get a Hiram, he will most likely just put that Tamatoa down, grab back the Fortisphere, and try to cycle and find that. But Moyen in a very, very good position, being not only up on the board in terms of characters, but has a much fatter hand, double the size of Zan's currently. Zan has the Fishbone Quill established, which is nice, but that is a card that empties your hand without the Hiram refilling it. It feels pretty rough, as we are going to pop the Popsicle so we can play down this 6-cost Tamatoa, which grabs 2 items because why not?
Insane that is something that is legal in this game. You absolutely hate to see it. I will never get off that soapbox. And I know Zan is standing on that same soapbox because he's a strong advocate for removing the game of Popsicle. But it is what it is right now. And now you have to get something down to the inkwell. We'll elect to go with the Scrooge McDuck, and we'll put the item Fortisphere back into the play. We will reveal another Popsicle. So next turn, you'll be able to go Popsicle, Popsicle, Popsicle heavy, and then get more draws, and maybe you can get into that Hiram Flaversham as we are going to use the power of the Fishbone Quill. We will set up the Popsicle to put into the inkwell instead of holding it, as we will continue to rip, can't rip into can't rip. But now Zan is favored in ink, and you can start putting this maximum threat Tamatoa down next turn if you felt so inclined.
Yep, the big Tamatoa can come down, but unfortunately for that Tamatoa, it can get double strength to the face with with what Moyen has going right now with just 4 characters, and everybody on his side of the board can open up and sing that for him. The bell is a 3-cost, and that is a 3-cost song. We'll see what he goes with here. I want to see this Cogsworth come down, but of course you're going to put the Fortisphere down. You're going to draw a card, and you're likely going to quest with the Hiram here to get the most options that you possibly can out of your deck for this turn, as Moyen's hand is absolutely stacked with options.
It's juice, man. Zan is he's looking ink rich, but he is looking resource depleted, as you do have a plussing agent in the Tamatoa. You have the Happy as a Clam that can quest, put the item out for free. You can get one back with the Big Crab. So you do have options. But like you said, there are so many medleys in the hand. There are so many tunes that you can rip off with all these characters, as Moyen doesn't know what's in the hand. So we will go ahead and take this as an opportunity. Go ahead and get the strength going now. Probably clearing that Tipo free and clear. Oh, and they're going to put big damage on the clamp, as showing a little bit of discipline, as you could come back in and finish this thing with the strength right here, as the Scrooge McDuck can sing as well. But you were trying to save some of that removal for a potential big crab, as you're going to get the Fishbone Quill down into the inkwell.
Yep, here's the Cogsworth. We'll see how much of a difference maker this is going to make in this steel matchup. I think it's going to be absolutely huge, and I love this addition into the deck. As we were talking about in the pregame, Moyen knew he was playing against a steel deck, whether it's Kurt, whether it's Artabax, whether it's Zan. And you know what's good in the steel? Cogsworth.
Yeah, and I think Zan had to kind of, I'm sure he's incapable of tilt, but he had to shudder a little bit seeing that big clock set up on the board because it's going to throw a lot of your still math off. A lot of your removal options are going to get significantly worse. Your Scrooge McDuck gets significantly worse. That Hiram Flaversham gets infinitely better. And this is just some guy that you just do not want to see because in a normal world, you could probably do something to this Hiram Flaversham here. You can send the Scrooge in, you could take the Tipo and maybe cat hard cast a song, and now the Hiram's gone or whatever. But now you can't do any of that. You can sit here and just you can clear the bill, but that doesn't feel that great as you are gonna be kind of falling a little bit behind in this matchup as Bell does go down, but you now are giving up you are now giving up your Scrooge McDuck basically for free. Let's see if he puts this Tamatoa bling bling out onto the field right now. It looks like you're tapping 8, so it looks like you're coming in.
Yeah, was able to heal 2 off of the Scrooge, so the challenge doesn't feel as bad, and you get the Tamatoa value, so you get double value. You don't necessarily pop the Popsicle for no reason. Now, you can just ink this up, play the Popsicle down again, get another card, and you could potentially heal your Scrooge again. Double heal, you'll get it back later, so there's no real need to have it on the board right now. You have a Fortisphere, and you have a Fishbone Quill out there already. So you don't need the
Right.
Popsicle if you want your Scrooge to be at full for this next turn.
You could, but I don't think it's worth it because with that Cogsworth setup, that's going to throw your combat math way off as his Scrooge is now full power and yours is quite weak. And so he can clear your Scrooge and actually live because you're doing that resist on both sides. So that's just one of those things that proves like Cogsworth is quite irresistible in this matchup as it's just going to be a super annoying card in the mirror as it looks like we got a happy as a clam as the rich get richer. Moyen has to be over the moon with the way that this game is going as
Yep.
Cogsworth and as Hiram Flaversham is going to be able to secure another 2 cards, and this is just getting out of reach. Zan has 10 ink. That's the only thing you got going for you right now as your position is starting to deplete as Moyen is continuing to expand. Another
There's
Cogsworth. Yeah, this game
another
might be over.
Cogsworth. Yeah, I think that is absolutely huge. And Moyen has just been able to find all the Popsicles, all the Fortispheres. He hasn't even need the Tamatoas to bring them back because he just finds them all naturally. Now you have to think about
Hmm.
what you're going to potentially do on this turn. Cogsworth does look pretty beefy. You can potentially put the Tamatoa Happy as a Clam onto the board after you ink to get 2 of these back. But I think maybe the Cogsworth is just worth it here to give the resilience to your Hiram. It's still going to go down to the combined might of Scrooge and Tamatoa should they both survive here, but you put down another Cogsworth, you crash Scrooge into Scrooge, and your Scrooge only takes 2.
Yeah, but is there a way that you could you get up to 5 characters or 6 characters on the board? No, you can go double Tipo and then I think that won't be enough to get your
Yeah.
strength up to the value required. So you're just gonna ink that Tipo. You're not even gonna risk it. And I think you just keep the value engine going and
Mm-hmm.
put a Tamatoa happy as a clam in play, get back 2 of your items, and then if you felt so inclined, I don't think you can't play another item right now, but you just wait the next turn. As you're holding 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards in hand, you hate to see it. We can clear the Scrooge, and we'll do that, taking another plus value on Zan. We'll take back 3 damage. And this spot is just seeming comfy, comfy, cozy. As this Tamatoa's got to work super hard. Lucky Dime here would be the best card you can draw, I would say, in this situation. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think Lucky Dime could potentially help you get out of a pinch here, especially if you never turn that Tamatoa sideways until you have game. But I mean, even at that point, you're still in a really, really bad position if you're Zan, but you need to find something here. I think Hiram is probably what you want. Get more options.
Yeah.
You have so much ink. Uh, yeah, that's the card you need. Let the
Not the
storm rage
storm. As
on.
as
Yeah.
you have this cards where if you can't clear anything with the storm, actually you can clear the Scrooge
Yeah, can
if
clear
you
the
felt so
Scrooge.
inclined. Yeah, a double cog there would have been just so oppressive. As we are going to hard cast a storm, we got to hit the Scrooge just to clear him. You'll get a card, and it's another strength. Oh, that is not the droid we were looking for. As Zan Syed has 2 strength of a Raging Fire in hand, we have the Tamatoa happy as a Tamatoa bling bling is up and active. Do you have a popsicle you can pop? Is it worth to quest to dig for another car? And Zan says yes. I'll go and pop this popsicle for nothing again, and we'll quest this big crab for a total of 4. just to cycle another card, just to keep digging. Hiram here would be super strong, and you got another removal.
Yeah.
Okay, the Zeus, but your Zeus numbers are even off. Look at Consort. Look how strong this card is. You can't target him because he has Ward himself, and
Zeus
now
is
he's
clearing
protecting.
nothing.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is absolutely insane. You hate to see it. And this Cogsworth is doing exactly what we thought it would do. Just completely stunning this board, being majestic as he always is. And I guess you can go strength into the Inkwell.
You
You
can
can strength.
strength and Zeus.
That feels so bad, but you got to do what you got to do. As we are going to put Zeus, we'll take 4 damage onto the Happy as a Clam, and then we'll put strength on it as well. As you use all your ink, use all your hand to clear 2 cards. You cannot enjoy that. And Moyen is just sitting here comfortably with 9 billion cards in hand, and another Cogsworth comes down next turn. But you're never going to give up. You always want to play to every possible out that you have available to yourself. As Zan is going to go ahead and quest his Tipo as well. Why not? As we'll just get up to 5.
Yeah, get aggressive here. Do what you can. I mean, Moyen's got a million cards in hand, but you have to think, does he have the answers as he keeps just drawing into these cards? And he has infinite cycling here, but would like to start to get some lore on the board, but I don't think there's a super rush. But as soon as the Hiram comes down, then you're in a little bit of trouble if you're Moyen, just because this big Tamatoa is established. You don't have a way to get rid of it right at this very moment because your Tamatoa and your Scrooge are both gone right now, thanks to all the removal that Zan had in his hand. But we'll see what Moyen wants to do here. You could just go ahead and establish your own big crab and get things
Yeah.
rocking on your side of the board because that crab's going to get another one of those cantrips down. And I mean, if you felt so inclined, you can put 4 of them down next turn and then just quest for 5.
I
And
mean, is there a world where you could get that strength going? If you can bolster your board a little bit. I'm looking at that Tipo. I'm looking at another character as Zan has gone to the dark side a bit and just trying to he's trying to support the lighting. I do
yep.
appreciate the effort as we'll go Fortisphere, pop the Fortisphere, add 2. Get 2 more cards in hand. You hate, and that's a third Cogsworth. You can get triple Cogsworth dueling right here, and
Mm-hmm.
that is just you just literally cannot win the game at that point. But it is what it is. This Kamatoa is a tremendous threat. I would almost be willing to send a lot of energy into this Kamatoa right now just to clear it. In that way, you can virtually just ensure your path to victory is secured. So maybe even keep digging, looking for something like a Along Came Zeus that you can sing with this Cogsworth, follow up with a Baboom and a Strength or something, and just get him off the field right now. And you'll feel so comfortable as we got the Cogsworth going ahead and sing Storm onto the Tipo, clearing Tipo,
Yep.
get into the Scrooge McDuck. Oh my goodness, this is great for Moy.
I mean,
Not so much for Zan.
you play 4 items here and play them for free if you want.
You you absolutely could, and I think that might be the line of play that Moya elects to take. As you could definitely do that, you'll continue to advance your position and put a nice threat in play. As it looks like we're going to pay 3. We're going to set up the Fishbone Quill. I'll be interested to see if he activates that. I don't think he will. And then we can. I still think we're doing ink for turn, so Tipo can fill that role quite easily. Can't stand Tipo. Get him out of here, right onto the inkwell. Pay 4 pay 3, get all these popsicles in. Let's see what Moy's going to do. He's got too many decisions, and we're inking the Cogsworth. I guess you don't feel like you don't need it, as you already have 1 established.
Yeah, for sure. I
And
mean,
let
he's looking at it right now. It's definitely an option. It's a pretty juicy one as well. Looks like he's going to ink
we're going to use the fishbone and
instead.
put the big crab in. Okay,
Could just go
and
another cogs here. I don't think it's bad. Like you said, 2 is basically ensuring
yeah,
that nothing on your side of the board is getting removed. The Tamatoa could just crash into the Cogsworth and remove it for 3. So let's put another one onto the board. Don't give out that free value in that trade, which would be very juicy
yeah,
on the side of Zan. Does he get into the Hiram? No, basically a useless card at
yeah.
this point.
I guess he gets another quest in though, so he can put that fishbone quill in and get an additional lore if he felt so inclined. But he's like, no, I need to save my ink just in case I need to get to an additional threat. As he
There's
gets
the
to the
dive.
lucky dime, and Moyne is leaving the window open. You're leaving the window open. You got to close this game. You got to get that Tamatoa off the field. You got to figure out a way to do that. And now this game is getting the record scratch hold up here as you have just enough ink to deploy this lucky dime and get it tapped or get it exerted onto this Tamatoa, and you're climbing, 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 and now you have outs. Moyen have left this. Whoa, wait a minute!
Yep.
You better when you got him down, you better step on his neck. As right here, it seems like you have turned the tides, and Moyen with all these resources in hand, now the game is happening. Now we're gaming. Oh my goodness. I don't know what you got to do, but you got to clear this crab now. Top deck crab coming off the top. The game is over and you just lose right there. Holy, what a turn of events.
Yeah, I mean, if I was in Moyen's position, I'd probably a little greedier and play the Tamatoa, the 8 drop, as soon as I
Yeah.
possibly can, just to get that established. And you have, like I said, so many items in hand. You could just put that down and start questing for 5 with a Cogsworth on board. What is Zan ever going to do about it? Um, but right now, like you said, he's got to think about a way to get out of this. Luckily, he has a Strength of Raging Fire. He has a Baboom. He has the options to definitely remove this Tamatoa, but you also need to start getting sideways and getting your lore total up. It's 15
Yeah.
to 4. If a Tamatoa comes off the top for Zan, he just wins the game.
He will literally win the game. That is just not good for Moyen. Moyen's got to be sweating vigorously a little bit because you have everything you could have ever asked for in this one, and you need to take this one down. You got the champ stumbling. He got that floating liver. You popped him, and he's on the ropes. You
Mm-hmm.
got to put him down. When you got him on the ropes, you can't let that bell ring. You got to take him out. And Moyen is going to look back on this one and be like, I think you have so many cards in your hand. You got to figure out a way to put him down here as you're going to go ahead and ink the popsicle here, and we will reveal the Sail the Azurite Sea. So that really didn't get you what you needed. You really want to see in the Long Came Zeus. I think that'll be a perfect card for Moyen to find here. I still think it's almost worth questing this Hiram to dig for 2 to find it. I know you might need Hiram to engage in Mortal Kombat here as you're crunching the numbers because you got 2, 3, 5 plus a strength that you can hard cast to just guarantee to clear. But I think Greed would take over. I think he can get to it. I think you got Baboom as well. You got Baboom strength. You don't need that higher. I'm grabbing 2 to see if I can get to that long game Zeus. What are you doing here in this crunch time spot?
Yeah, I mean, I always like looking for more cards if Moyen can find a more perfect answer to this Tamatoa, but it definitely has to go. So he's considering every single option here. Could get the Tipo out, but decides to ink it here. Is he going for his own big Tamatoa? Looks like he is. He's going to grab the Fortisphere out of the inkwell there. So he should have 1 ink remaining after this. So he can get that
Okay.
back, play it, draw a card.
We're going to Lucky Dime. We're going to get Sell the Azurite Sea, play it on into the inkwell. I mean, we got enough ink to play
Yep,
the
yep.
baboon.
Can Baboom still.
Hard cast on the baboon, and we'll go ahead and deploy that onto the Tamatoa. We'll send 2 there, bringing him down to a total of 6. We will hit the strength onto the
Got a
Tamatoa. We'll bring
challenge.
it up to, and we'll send that in on taking 4 from the Cogsworth. And now this looks like a much more comfortable spot. But you have outs, a top deck Tamatoa here, and what can you do? The game just comes to an end as it looks like we're gonna have a draw. Maybe you might be able to squeeze out a second turn here. No, I think it might be GG imminent next turn. Moyen has some really live draws
Moyen
coming off the top
has
of the deck, so it's
12 available for him on the next turn, I believe, if I counted correctly. We find a Pete, which is okay. We can obviously exert the dime to gain 1 off of that, but I don't think Moyen has the ability to win next turn. He's got,
unless he gets his own lucky dime here. I think that
yeah,
might be enough to do it. You do have a plethora of items and you are ink abundant. So you can have 9 plus 2. Tamatoa goes up to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, the game would be over if you can draw a lucky dime here. So let's see if Moyen is good enough to do it. And you have some rips to get there as well, because a you will have a and we're gonna pop for Fortisphere. Interesting indeed. And we will go ahead and Fishbone Quill to send one down. That's an interesting pop on the Fortisphere. Just maybe trying to set up a Tamatoa Happy as a Clam if you are going to top deck that card next time. I don't hate that either. All right. So Moyen has a ton of rips here to get to a Lucky Dime. You have 1 draw. You have a Hiram deployment as well. We will go for Popsicle first.
yeah. And he does have 12 on the board currently, just so everybody is aware. If he plays all 4 of the items from his hand, he'll have a total of 12 lore that he can get to. Finds another popsicle. That takes him up to 13 lore, potentially.
I don't think he needs a dime
turn.
anymore. Yeah. How much is that now? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4,
total
5, 6.
if he plays the Fortisphere.
Yeah, that's
this is gonna
pretty
look
intense.
This is gonna look for a dime potentially. No dice. Or did he find it? No, he didn't.
No, that looks like a bigger whiff. That's all gonna go to the bottom of the deck.
Yep, and right now you're just hoping that Zan does not find Tamatoa. That's the only thing that really, really cooks you here.
Yeah,
obviously, Hiram's pretty bad, as you can draw the 2. But it has to be Tamatoa on this next turn, or things are going to go for Moyen. So another item comes onto the board. We'll see what we get into. It's another Scrooge. You could go with Scrooge here, just the old-fashioned way, pay 4 and look for that lucky dime, but you can't play it anymore on this turn. Again, the Pete was deployed last turn. There's no Zeusing that Pete, so it will remain on the board, but it doesn't matter because Zan's got a bunch of 2 questers other than the Tamatoa. So you quest with
and
Pete.
I think that's a dime right there.
There it is.
We will get the dime. So you can't play it. You show it, but you can't play it. So this game is over next turn. So Zan needs to get to the Tamatoa bling bling. Tamatoa is so shiny. I think is the out. You can't, unless there's a 3 questing character that I'm missing out on. I don't think we have that in the game. You can quest for 1, go up to 17.
Yeah.
And then that is going to be it. So you need to be Tamatoa here or bust. And the game does come to a screeching halt. You can quest. I think you got to quest everybody anyway. Just get them all exerted. As we will quest the Hiram Flaversham, go up to 7. We'll pop the Fortisphere, draw 2.
Yep, just making sure he's doing everything he possibly can on this turn. But finding the lucky time does not change the outcome of this game. Moyen would quest for the game next turn regardless of what Zan gets, unless Zan gets, like, another Zeus off the top, because Pete and Zeus can remove the Tamatoa. No, it can't even, because there's double Cogsworth. Yeah, there's, like, nothing that Zan could get that could remove the Tamatoa. So finding the dime doesn't really change the game. But Moyen just want to make sure that he sequences everything correctly as you get a second
we go blind.
Yeah.
Come on. Lock back in. Pixelborn. Let's get back in there. Oh, man. This is going to be the most crucial top deck, I think, in the history of the universe. We got to get it, as it looks like we did lose a little bit of feed. We did switch the parameters there, as Moyen is still digging, playing,
still doing
searching.
His 500 actions for this turn.
Just building the bulky board, and we're going to quest heavy, getting up to a lethal condition. It all comes down to this. Zan Syed, can he draw it? The Tamatoa bling bling, like the World Series of Poker. You got like somebody can crunch the numbers and see what the odds are to get that thing up to what it can be. And here it is, the top deck.
Still don't know.
Oh, it's just the bill.
So we're
going to go ahead and
wrap
pack
it
up here.
Yep, that is a win for Moyen. It looked like, hey, I'm way ahead this entire game. Let's play it safe. And then that Tamatoa, like, hey, that guy's gaining a lot of lore. I think I got to do something here to swing things back into my favor. The Cogsworths were really, really big. Yeah, I mean, even if Zan found the Hiram off the top, he didn't have enough ink to search for the Tamatoa, so it was literally Tamatoa off the top or nothing. Maybe like a Fortisphere or Popsicle to look one more time, but that was it. That was the game, as it was really just the difference. The Hiram was the difference. Moyen drew all of his deck. There had to be like less than 15 cards left in his deck by the end of things. Zan just didn't find it, and sometimes that's how these Sapphire mirrors go. You either get the Hiram or you don't.
Absolutely, but Zan could have hit a Vision of the Future there into a
that's true.
Into a Tamatoa. I think he had enough ink. I think he was sitting at 12.
Yeah,
and he just needed 9.
Also,
so yes, so you can go for a Vision into a Popsicle and potentially into a Tamatoa and still be able to deploy it and get it in. So, or no, I'm sorry, you couldn't do that. You just get a Vision. I think he had enough for a Vision into a Tamatoa.
Yeah, he did,
and that's it.
Yep, because he had 12. So 2 for the Vision, get the Tamatoa, 2 for the dime. That would have been
Absolutely.
exact. So, yeah, a couple of outs there. Bell was not the out. So, we're going to go
Yeah.
into game number 2 here. We'll see if Zan is able to find the Hiram, but even despite not finding the Hiram, almost got over the edge despite Moyen's just insane card advantage the entire game. And Zan able to make the most of the limited resources that he had, which is why these games are so interesting. I think if any other, well, not any other player, but the majority of players, 99% of players were in that position, they're probably not even getting over 10 lore, let alone to
Yeah.
16, which is what Zan got to.
Absolutely. He definitely gave himself an out to win. He had a chance to win the game, but Moyen just said, "You know what? I'm a lock in. I got this advantage. I can't go out like this, not in front of the millions and millions of people watching around the world. You know what I'm saying? The billions of people tuned into the LCCC. All of you out there in TV land, welcome to the Garrick's Lorcana lair. I'm gonna check out some chat really quick. We got some stars. I love the stars rolling out to support the LCCC. That's my favorite part, seeing some names of community over here. So make sure you guys are hitting the like button and subscribing to Garrick's Lorcana Lair. He makes amazing videos. Seriously, check them out, watch them, and you will be better for it. I love to see it. As Zan was on the play though that turn, so you will get an opportunity to be right back on the play again,
Mm-hmm.
and that is very critical for Moyen coming in, taking game off of Zan on the play, and having that comfort blanket, knowing you got a game 3. If you need it, you got to come back in with another game 3.
Yeah, Moyen looking at his options here kind of has them separated into 2 or 3 little piles. You have your turn 2 ramp, you have your potential turn 1 bell, and your Hiram. Those are all extremely useful in this matchup. Maybe you just keep the ramp and the Hiram and hope for one of those items instead of clinging on to the bell. But I think maybe the other 4 can go unless you potentially want to keep the Tipo as well.
100%. I think I like his play. Depending on, let's see how many Zan sends back. I think keeping the sale, keeping the Hiram for sure, and send. I love selling to Hiram and send as many back as I can to get to that popsicle. This bail is great, but just like we said last time, it's not the best thing in the universe, especially in this mirror. It's not really going to do much. You might get a song off, you might be able to clear a TPO, but you don't really need to contest that early game board because it's just not that important. But you do ship hard and you don't hit that item. Ooh, that feels quite bad. You have so many in the deck. As Zan also, did he not put the Hirams in the deck though? Let's see, because I haven't seen. I mean, I did see some sleeve up operations happening there before this thing started, and I know he was jumping back and forth between playing different decks. I have not seen a Hiram Flaversham for the 3 times. So let's see if he's got the Rat Inventor in the deck, as you still have not gotten one. But you do have Pop, you do have Sale. Let's see if we like to do here. So we're going to start off by inking the Strength of a Raging Fire. We'll play the Popsicle, and we don't have a bell to go into as of yet, as another Popsicle is added to the hand.
Yeah, another popsicle never bad to have in hand, but of course we are going to sail the Azurite Sea on the next turn. We have 2 uninkables, those being the Let the Storm Rage On and a Lucky Dime. A little early for that, but maybe if you can get a Tamatoa out, you can always quest and get that on the board for free. As we ink
Oh,
the Vision of the Future, we find a Cogsworth off the top for Moyen, and there's another cantrip for Zan.
yeah, just not being able to make a play on your first turn never feels great. But again, this mirror does come out of the gate quite slow, as you are going
There's the
to
Hiram.
get into the Seal of the Other Sea, and now you find him. The Rat Inventor has made his way into the field of play, as you are thinking about putting this Fortisphere down to the Inkwell. And you will, as Fortisphere is going to come out in favor of the more reliable Popsicle. You'll draw a card here as you get into the Shield of Arendelle. You hate to see that. You love to
Yeah.
see that shield going down to the Inkwell in this position.
Yeah, for sure, but you got to do what you got to do. I mean, with the amount of uninkables in Zan's hand, you have to keep the Scrooge, I would think, in this matchup. So get rid of the Fortisphere. It is what it is. Tough to see the Arendelle come off the top, as you would rather ink that. But going over onto Moyen's side of the board, we are going to ink that Great Stone Dragon and get into a sail here. We'll see what he's able to do. He does have the Scrooge as well to counter
Mm,
Zan's potential Scrooge on this next turn if he opts to go for that instead of the Hiram. But you need to find that 1-drop item so you can make use of the 2 Hirams that are in your hand, as we do ink the Fishbone Quill as well.
yeah.
Just a little
So we
slow at
might
this
have to take,
point.
we might have to take that same approach we did in game number one and just load that Scrooge McDuck, have him search your deck, do a little bit of diggage, see if you can find that popsicle, and then put Hiram out on a later turn.
Mhm.
Even if you go Cogsworth on 5 and then Hiram a little bit later, that could be the play because typically Hiram coming out on 4, especially your hand isn't juiced, isn't that bad, and your opponent really isn't aggressing you. But now they have their Hiram set up, and you feel miserable to see that Rat Inventor coming on in and getting a little bit of advantage for Zan. So Zan has to feel a bit more comfortable in this matchup as we do get into the Bell as well. Who's not able to do much, just find herself quickly into the Inkwell, and we will go ahead and pay full retail value for the Scrooge McDuck. Let's see if he hits.
Yeah, thank goodness that the Scrooge does have the ability to search for an item, and he does find an item, but not necessarily the
Ugh.
item that he wants right at this moment. We get into the lucky dime as, yeah, Moyen just needs that one drop. Maybe he can get it off the top of his deck to make the most of his hand right now, but we're going to get into a situation that was sort of the opposite, the inverse of last game, where Zan is just
Hmm.
going to be full in his hand, and Moyen is looking extremely low. Zan potentially thinking about singing Storm here and then hard casting Storm, just get that Scrooge off the board
Yeah.
and don't deal with him at all, as we do find the Tamatoa Happy as a Clam, which can come down on the next turn, and then Quest to get the lucky dime onto the board. You know that Moyen's only playing 2 of the Zeus, and he
Hmm.
has to find it, or this Crab is going to get so much value playing the dime for free.
Absolutely. And I think that fifth turn play in the Sapphire Steel strategy just seems so awkward sometimes. You got to figure out something cool to do. I think that is a good use of your 5 ink play. Just being able to sing 2 songs and then play 2 songs and then get the vision down. I like that use of cards because it's really not a lot to do on 5 and it's more traditional build. I guess slamming Cogsworth with 5 ink is a good way to utilize that. Zen, is that
Ariel.
Ariel?
Yeah.
Was that in the deck?
Ariel, I don't think Ariel was in the deck that decks that we were given.
Maybe I might be mistaken, but we might need to look into that because I don't remember seeing an Ariel either. Because I definitely would have made notice of that
Yeah,
because Ariel
you
is
were
a very
talking
strong
about her.
card in this meta right now. I did mention that, but I didn't see one. Maybe we got the wrong decks. I know there is something with the deck links and the updates and things of that sort. But we can get into the committee. They can look into that. But we'll keep playing. That is Ariel, the treasure collector, and Zan's showing it to the camera right now, saying that there might be some type of issue mistake as shout out to the staff. They're gonna have to coordinate with this as that card probably it was not on the list. This is a tournament venue here.
Yeah.
As I do think that card is fantastic, as I did mention in the earlier meta, and I think that Aerial Spectacular or Aerial Treasure Collector is probably it's probably a card that I would definitely want to uh, put in my blue steel deck or my sapphire steel deck, but in the decks that we did get, I didn't see it, and we're just going to make sure that is okay. I'm not sure what's going down. The judge is going to be on the case right now. Shout out to Phil. Shout out to everyone else who's behind the scene making that thing happen. So if you want, Gary, you want to take a quick break while they sort this out. If you want to go back to those deck lists, just let's confirm that that is what we saw, and I think that's what I saw as well in terms of what those deck lists were in this type of situation. As they're sorting it all out. The gameplay has paused for just a moment while we get to the bottom line of what's happening here. And it looks I'm not sure. I think play is gonna be halted just a bit
Yep.
as we're
We
all
have
getting behind the scenes sorting this thing out.
we have the deck list up. As you all can see, there is not an Aerial Treasure Collector here, so we're trying to figure out why that card is in the deck. Of course, Zan would know that you can't play a card that's not in your deck list. So right
Yeah.
now he is counting the cards in his deck. Again, he's working with Phil to figure out what is going on. Maybe that was a mistake and she should not
Right.
be in the deck, and we will see how Phil decides to handle that situation. But yeah, it's a
Yep.
really interesting one here. They're talking about it right now. If the Ariel
And
is in the deck, he's got exactly 60, or maybe he has 61. What do you think the move is here?
Yeah, it was it's one of those it's I think you're gonna. I still think you want to go ahead and send that. Get the Tamatoa going. I would say just to start that engine up and maybe set up a lucky dime play. But in this situation, I know Zan's been traveling a lot, and maybe he's been testing other decks, and maybe he just got confused on what was happening,
Yeah.
perhaps.
So we do
And
have
I did see him as this match was starting. I did see him sleeving this deck up to
okay.
begin. So it looks like I think they got some type of resolution. I would say as we're just gonna and again these deck lists
The voice
are
of God here.
these oh God,
Yep,
really
we
feel
have
scared
we
though.
have Phil. Phil, go
I'm
ahead.
just letting. I mean, like I can game loss him right now, but it's not really fun for everybody involved. It's the aerial is just going to be treated as an ink proxy. It's only ink.
Okay.
Okay. And did they say is it a 61st card thing or was it a deck? Because the deck lists are open as a matter. And is there a way we could find out what that card was and just make it that card, or is that too much to do to try to go through this whole thing and figure that out right now? Phil left us. Okay,
Yeah,
RIP.
Phil is
RIP.
communicating with the players. As he's saying to the players right now, Ariel is in the deck. We could game loss Zan, but if we were to do that at this point, it would be pretty uneventful for the LCCC. Might cause a lot of drama, and we don't necessarily want that, but we'll get into that during the player interviews. Right now, all we know is that card can only be used as ink, and I think that is the most fair thing to do to keep the LCCC moving here.
Right.
Keep everything fair and
And and
balanced,
and to
and
that point, Garrick,
yeah,
these are open deck lists. So you'd
right.
have to be and certainly Moyen is not some geek off the street. He studied Zan's deck list. If he just slams an aerial down,
Yeah,
he'd be like,
like,
wait a
hold
minute, bro.
on.
You don't have that in your deck. So clearly Zan's not trying to gain some type of edge because that would just be absolutely ludicrous. So let's nip that in the bud right away. But I will say that maybe he's been testing other things and tried something out. It just didn't get taken out or something like that. So taking nothing away, it'll be used as ink. You'll put yourself at a disadvantage. No harm, no foul as a play will continue on.
Yep. So Moyen here is just trying to ramp up. It seems he's trying to get as much ink as he possibly can. Had to get rid of that fishbone quill, but finds another one here. Right now he's at 6 as he opts to sail, inks Hiram, and inks the Scrooge to play Scrooge. But now he has the second Hiram. He finally got a Fortisphere, so he can now start to match the hand that Zan, excuse me, Zan has, which is
Hmm.
really good news for Moyen, but he's been pretty far behind on board thus far. So we'll see what he can do to catch up here. As I mentioned before the whole Ariel fiasco, this turn does spell Tamatoa happy as a clam. That could come down and could completely swing this game if it is able to quest and get that lucky dime onto the board for free, as Zan does put it down and we get 2 of the popsicles back into our hand. Off the top, we need to find the
And along
Zeus.
came Zeus.
Yeah,
You have 3 chances. You have the top deck draw. You have 4 chances
4
because you
chances,
can
yeah.
go you can go draw phase and then you can play this Fortis Sphere. That's another rip. You got this Hiram coming in. That's 2 more rips. So you have 4 opportunities to get to your along came Zeus here. And let's see if you're good enough to do it. As one,
Tipo.
it's going to be Tipo. Hate to see it. Get Tipo out of here. Put him into the inkwell immediately. As it looks like we have one for the pops. The Fortis Sphere is going to get deployed. Let's see if you can
Fortisphere,
rip
here's
here
number 2.
and you
Finds
got it.
it!
There it is.
There is the Zeus off the top. That's exactly what he needed. You don't want to see this dime come down for free. We'll see what he decides to ink and go with here. Maybe he doesn't know the emergency situation that he's in. Obviously, we see Zan's hand, but he's got to assume maybe that lucky dime is there. I don't believe he revealed it. Zan's had that in his opening hand this entire game. As we're going to exert 3, we're going to put out that fishbone quill, potentially ink something, and get the Hiram onto the board as well. But you got to sing Zeus with Scrooge this turn. Scrooge has got to show us that
Yep.
beautiful voice and get rid of that clam before things become very dire. And we're just going to
And
ink the
we're
lucky
gonna
dime.
we're gonna use the Interesting. Inking that lucky dime here, as that is just going to be another critical part of your own win condition. You think you would hang on to it, so maybe you can get your own happy as a clam or get your dime established. I do like the tenacity. You're going to put it into the inkwell. You feel like you don't need it, as you're going to go. We are going to Zeus up the happy as a clam, but there is another copy. There's another rendition, if you will. Another clamming is in the hand for Zan Syed, as he is going to be on the approach. You can set it up again and see if you're good enough to get another Zeus. You will have five rifts this time to get another Zeus. You got your
Hmm.
own draw phase, two popsicles, and a Hiram quest for two. So you have more opportunity to find a second Zeus, but less Zeuses to find, as we are going to find our own Zeus. So we're having a Zeusening over here. Everyone gets a Zeus.
Yeah, Zeusathon. You get a Zeus, I get a Zeus. Everybody gets a lightning bolt to the face, and Scrooge could potentially eat that lightning bolt, as Hiram has 6 willpower, so he will not be removed by it. And I don't believe there is any additional removal in Zan's hand other than that Hades, which will be incredibly useful in this matchup. Right now, I think the players are also discussing something else.
Yeah, they're having a determination of what is going down. We'll replace it okay. So I think they're going to maybe do another deck check just to make sure everything is on the up and up, and then they can come through and clean the deck and make it the way that it should be.
Hmm.
Again, keep in mind, everyone. Let's all execute some patience and some care and some love. This is an exhibition. This is for the viewers at home. We want to encourage this to continue, and I don't want to be rude or disrespectful in any way. Accidents happen. We are only humans. This is just for the community. So let's keep in mind there is no cash prize associated to this event. There is no reason that anybody would ever want to cheat in an open deck list thing. So let's please kill that right where it stands, because it's literally just an accident. That's something that happened. Okay. And we're just trying to make sure that this thing stays above board and just make sure that it's a clean product across for everyone involved. There's no issues. Let's just get to the bottom of it and sort it out. And no illegal play has happened. So it's going to be what it is, as we are going to go ahead and exert four. We'll put our Scrooge McDuck out for free, and then we'll get another quality search in for another item.
Yeah, I think it would be a completely different situation if it wasn't an Ariel, but was like a 4th Zeus, for instance,
Yeah.
or a 3rd Lucky Dime or a 2nd Hades or something. Ariel's not even in the deck list. Everybody involved knows that the card is not in the deck list. Zan is not, dumb enough to put an Ariel in his deck and think he can get it by Phil or Moyen or,
or us,
or us. I mean,
the whole
or
world, like
everybody
everyone
in
is.
the chat, right? So, let's chill
It's,
on the allegations. Of course, Zan has.
especially
Yeah.
I literally held the aerial up in front of the camera. I would have noticed the aerial. Come on, it's one of my favorite. It's literally one of my favorite cards in the entire game. It's literally sitting right here. So of course that is not going to be something that anyone is trying to do. And if Moy wants to trigger a whole deck check after this, then that's a whole different story.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be mad at that. This
No.
is
No.
competition,
Yeah.
but at the same time it is an exhibition. They're all open deck lists, and trying to get past the system just seems like not something that someone would actually try and do.
Yeah. So Zan does not opt for the Tamatoa Happy as a Clam. It looks like they're still discussing something. We will. I mean, obviously, we're gonna talk about it. We have to talk about it
Yeah.
at the end here. But let's continue on, and we'll see what happens
We're
after this game. I don't think.
Garrick.
Go
Garrett,
ahead.
you gotta understand, this is news in the making. Okay, this
It
is like
is.
we are living it live right now, and people are going to talk about this. Both of them will be discussing this at
Oh,
length.
for sure.
I'm certain that this is going to be another point of contention, point of discussion from here until who knows. So we're here at the moment
Mhm.
of it right now. Breaking news. I do feel a bit uncomfortable because I can feel the tension is mounting already,
Yeah.
and it literally just got started. So hopefully peace will reign as Moyen is continuing to play on, and see if we can have some type of resolution. Both players have a tremendous amount of cards in hand and a tremendous amount of Storm Rage on. Is going to come on into the Scrooge McDougal. No, check that. We're going to the Hiram Flaversham. We can go ahead and clear that with this Scrooge
Yep.
McDuck if you felt so inclined. You could have even established that Cogsworth there this turn if you wanted as well.
Yep. Got a few options here. I think the inking of the Baboom is correct. We can also put down another Fortisphere. We can ink this second Fishbone Quill. Don't necessarily need 2 of those. And you can establish the Cogsworth with the power of the Fishbone Quill. We're going to take out the Hiram, stop that questing, stop that card draw for now. But Zan does have another in his hand and a Vision of the Future if he didn't, to look for an additional one. Interesting that Zan gave him another turn to potentially find more Along Came Zeus's, because he could have established the Happy as a Clam last turn again, and this turn he could be questing in for that lucky dime. Of course, we know that Moyen had the answers in hand with the Boom, with the Storm, and the Strength, but it would have taken 3 cards to remove the Tamatoa.
Yeah, this seems like a very, very comfortable spot for Moyen, I would say, as we do have the Tamatoa set up. We have the Cogsworth, who, as we stated, is a very strong card in this matchup. Your Zeuses get a lot better, or excuse me, a lot worse. All your cards get a little bit worse now for Zan. As we're going to go pay 4. We'll put out another Scrooge McDuck. Let's see if he can hit. And he will miss.
Yeah,
as we're going to send those cards at the bottom of the deck.
Makes sense. I mean, Zan has a ton of items already in play, whether that's in hand, in the discard pile, in the inkwell, or on the board. So, I mean, Scrooge is going to start missing if he is played out. But obviously, we see that he was able to exert 4 items there, as Zan clarifies that for everybody, gets that Scrooge out for free, and now he can establish the big Tamatoa. Oh, nope, doesn't have it. He can establish the little Tamatoa. He can establish the dime. He has a lot of options here.
Yeah, I think you can even go as far as to popping those items. Even though they're exerted, you still can pop them, which is a bit ridiculous. I think Popsicle might be a part of the problem, but we will go ahead and go for the Hiram Flaversham here this turn and get 2 more cards added to the hand. Checking those, it's another Fishbone and another Strength. So your board is quite robust. You still got that Cogsworth. Throwing your Strength numbers off, you're going to have an additional character to the board to do the same effect. Hate to see it, as you can have the Scrooge exert for 3. You can also send 3 into the Hiram to clear him if you felt so inclined. Yeah, you can go ahead and crash 3 in, hardcast Strength for 3, clear the Flaversham, and kind of.
Well, he'd have to play Zeus to get rid of the Hiram, because Strength only does 2 right now. So
that's right. You're right. See, I can't do basic mathematics, dude. There it is. You're right. See, this is already
that's the
power.
Right, that's the power of the Cogsworth. You know, that's the power of resist. I mean, throws me off all the time when I'm playing it. Oh, that has resist. Wait, let me rethink things here. But we do go for the Zeus, as the Hiram is removed. That was very, very important for Moyen to keep at this point, because his hand is so low, especially compared to what Zan has. Like I said, it's basically the opposite of what happened last game, where Moyen had every single card and Zan had basically nothing. But Zan was able to establish that Tamatoa, and Moyen could do that for sure. The problem is he doesn't have a lot of follow-up. At least he has the Cogsworth to protect it somewhat. It would take a heavy investment to remove that Tamatoa. You know, Sans. That's a great
little piece of tempo kit right there. Speaking of something to do, you can go Popsicle and bring out this Hades, the Infernal Schemer, and send whatever problematic card you want into the Inkwell face down and exert it. And he will also represent a little piece of threat too, to kind of start questing and board fighting.
Yeah, the Hiram.
Do you go Hiram here, or do you go Hades or Hiram here?
I mean, Zan's only at 2. I'm just going to play Hiram if it's me. Maybe save the Hades for a big Tamatoa, save him for a rainy day. There's only 1 in the deck, so I don't think you necessarily need to use it on anything on Zan's side of the board, unless you're really, really worried about this Hiram gaining too much more value. It is definitely an option to go for that.
Absolutely. So let's see what he likes to do, because Hades does represent a little bit of board control, a little board position there, as we are going to pay the troll toll. We're doing the full value amount. We're paying 7, and the 8. I'm sorry. The 8 is coming in as the big boy. It's going to strike the board. We'll pay get an additional card from the deck. Tipo, fishbone him, please, immediately. Get this guy away from me. Hate to see it. Hate to see it.
He's just a little guy, you know. He's trying his
best.
Get
that little guy down to the inkwell, man. I hate to see it. Get him out of my life. As we have this Tamatoa, now this is a huge threat. So Zan is going to be in a compromised position, but I believe Zan is also hanging on to the Infernal Schemer
Yep,
that
all
is
the way on
sitting
the
there
left
waiting.
there.
Yep, we're waiting to tee up an enemy Tamatoa as we'll go ahead and put that T-Bow down to the inkwell. You hate to see it. Can't stand the growing boy. As we're going to probably pass it back on over to Zan here. Questing this Cogsworth might be a mistake. You might be able to get loose with your own Scrooge, clearing the opposition Scrooge McDuck and keeping your Scrooge around, and then maybe trading in for another Scrooge McDuck on the following turn, as you will do that. Strength of Raging Fire can be the punish, but that's just what you got to take from time to time. As we're going to go ahead and probably kick it here back on over to Zan Syed, who's got this Hades spooling up.
Yeah, the Hades got to come down here, remove that Tamatoa. You don't want a dime being established on the next turn. The Tamatoa gaining too much value on Moyen's turn. It just feels unfortunate if you're on Moyen's side of the board, where Zan has like every single perfect answer for your board every single time, other than Cogsworth, which is basically not answerable. But yeah, Zan's just got everything. He's taking his time. Like I said, he could have established a second Happy Clam to potentially get that Lucky Dime onto the board a little bit earlier in the game, but he is taking his time. He is being very patient, just as Moyen was last game, but you don't want that to come in and bite you later, as we do see the Cogsworth get exerted. So the Scrooge and the Hiram could take the Cogsworth for free potentially, which is an interesting move on the side of Moyen.
Maybe he have an outside Forty Sphere play? No, there's no bodyguard shenanigans here either. This is interesting read on Moyen to exert this Cogsworth. I'll be interested to see why he put that Cogsworth into a vulnerable position here in this game number 2. I'd love to see that Cogsworth staying ready. You're not under any tremendous pressure at all, and now we can clear that. Maybe you just want this Scrooge to stick around a little bit longer, or maybe you want your opponent to force some songs in there and take the attention away from the Tamatoa Happy as a clan, or Tamatoa Bling Bling. I think that is a technique that some players do. Just, I'm gonna go ahead and get this. I'm gonna go ahead and show this over here, so you might not think about this Tamatoa, and then he can just get his mighty quest in and potentially win the game. We also saw that the Lucky Dime went down to the Inkwell earlier. Zan doesn't know this, but we know this because we saw it from our home station. So this is an interesting turn of events. And now Zan might almost be forced to send this Hades, and you'll be able to take all the momentum here back to your side of the field. But whenever someone tees up a Cogsworth, you almost got to take it, right? That just feels so clean.
Yeah, I mean, the Cogsworth is exerted. Why not take him out? Zan potentially thinking of, why did this happen? What could be going on Moyen's side of the board or in Moyen's head to allow this Cogsworth to be exposed at this point? Questing for a mere 2, going up to 3. It's not like he's getting close to that 20 lore mark, so Zan probably thinking about every possible thing that he can. But in the meantime, let's do the Hades. Of course we're going to Hades. Why wouldn't you Hades? It is the Tamatoa that could gain an insane amount of lore on the next turn.
And that's why he's in the deck. I think you just got to play him. This card is quite strong in this matchup as well. And in the Ruby Sapphire, I love me some Hades, putting in those problematic characters to the Inkwell. They're already ramping like crazy anyway, so who cares? Just start blasting Hades and see what happens there. As we are going to send the Scrooge and the Hiram into this Cogsworth. I think you got to. You will lose 2 cards in the process, but clearing Cogsworth, I think if it's ever exerted, you got to take every opportunity you can to remove that character from the board, as we will be able to pass it back on over to Moyen, who also is going to lose the Scrooge McDuck. And yeah, this type of position might be difficult to come back from. You can deploy your own Hades, and you also do have a Hiram Flaversham to help refill your hand a bit, but this is looking a little bit more compromised, a little bit more vulnerable, as Zan has so much follow-up as well.
Yep, Zan goes ahead and pops the Popsicle to heal the Hiram, preventing the potential Zeus from coming down and removing it, or, anything else. We are going to put the Hiram down and draw a couple cards for Moyen. I do like the play of Moyen putting down that big Tamatoa on the last turn. Force out the Hades, save your Hiram for the next turn to refill yourself a little bit more. Now you've got another Tamatoa in hand, but we'll see what he decides to go with here. I think he wants to look for another card, maybe find some cleaner answers for the opposite side of the board that he is seeing, as we get into another Tamatoa.
So this is looking pretty good for Moyen. I know he was on his back foot there for just a second, but now he's stumbled into some phenomenal cards. And there's not a lot of pressure coming in from Zan's side of the field. You have that Scrooge McDuck with that swinging that 4. You got that Hiram who's questing. Let's see what the goal is. Maybe you can even send this Hades in now and clear this Hiram Flaversham, and then put the kibosh on it, and then maybe set up your own, potentially setting up your own Tamatoa, and you'll have the Hades as your emergency exit button. So this is a very, very complex, intricate turn of events. Let's see how Moyen likes to break this thing down. And you'll like to say, let's just keep the tempo as high as possible, and I'll put out another amazing threat in the name of Tamatoa Bling Bling, as we'll be able to add another card to the hand and see if Zan can answer this problematic card. You use your one of Hades, the Infernal Schemer. Let's see what the follow-up's going to be for Zan Syed.
Yeah, Moyen feeling pretty happy right now. He's got the Tamatoa out. There's no Tamatoa on the side of Zan. There's no Lucky Dime. Maybe, again, you should be a little bit more greedy in these decks, but these are two high-level players that know exactly what they're doing and how they want to navigate these matches. So we are going back over to Zan. These are really, really complicated turns. They're trying to figure out what the best way to approach them are, and Zan deciding to say, hey, he's got his Tamatoa. I need to get at least one of mine down. His is a bit bigger, quest for a little bit more, but mine puts out a free Lucky Dime on the next turn.
But you're still not in a range to where you're threatening any type of lethal situation, or you're threatening like some type of outside game shot. You're both sitting at 2 and 3 respectively, but the biggest threat of the game is on the board right now in the name of Tamatoa. Tamatoa so shiny. So can you grab enough resources to put this Strength of a Raging Fire to a great effect? How many characters can you get onto the board? I don't know if you can get up to 8 right now, but you can definitely try to increase that a little bit. As we got the Scrooge McDuck is coming in, you can go Zeus and Strength to clear that Tamatoa, but there is another Tamatoa coming your way that you just don't know about, as we are going to miss here on the Scrooge. Typically, these late game Scrooges are probably not going to hit, but it looks like you are going to miss there, as this is game number 2, and we are we're in the thick of it, dude. These mirrors can take a really, really long time, and I'm here for it. I do love the grind, as we are going to pop the popsicle. We are going to add 2 more due to Hiram's effect.
Yep, now the board is getting really, really wide for Zan, which is what you want to see going up against other steel decks. They don't have a way to clear wide boards. They don't play Grab Your Sword anymore. That card has sort of been power crept entirely out of the game. 2 damage across the board is just not enough when characters like Sisu exist, when Be Prepared exists. Just things that just not valuable in these decks any longer. So no way to clear wide boards really, other than challenging, which is where the Cogsworth comes in handy. But I think Moyen has to just kind of say, I need to gain some lore here. A Lucky Dime obviously would be amazing for his side of the board, but we'll see what he decides to go with. Maybe establishing another Tamatoa here, hoping to, stumble into a Lucky Dime and find a win out of nowhere could be a way to get things done as we vision into the future to take another vision quest later on.
Look at that. Maybe you're looking for another Lucky Dime, perhaps, because you can get one Lucky Dime in for free with this Happy as a Clam, and then find another, get it in for free. And we're going to go
Boom.
both Singing Zeus and Strength, clearing the Tamatoa.
Yeah.
And I think that Happy as a Clam is still drying right now, and everyone else is exerted. I believe that might be your turn. You're thinking about jamming this bell into the play as well. You'll do so by popping the popsicle, and I think that's the rest of your ink, and that is the rest of your turn. So now it's going to be on Moyen to probably try to get rid of this Happy as a Clam now, because that is the biggest threat. I've been looking at this Hades for a while. He's been showing some extreme restraint and discipline, holding on to this Hades for as long as humanly possible. You can exert 4 items. You'll bring out the Scrooger for free. Let's see if this late game Scrooge can hit, and it will.
Are we lucky? Is there a dime? Moyen not showing. Oh,
no,
it's
we're
a
just gonna whiff.
Unfortunate for the Scrooge McDuck, but we did get him out for free. We will quest to find 2 more cards here, as we do have all of our ink available to us. None of that is exerted, just so the viewers are aware that Scrooge came down by exerting for items. So right now you're staring down the Tamatoa Happy as a Clam. Does he have the Lucky Dime in his hand? If he does, you kind of need to play this Hades, but you also want to save the Hades for the shiniest of the Tamatoas, which the Happy Clam is not. So we'll see what Moyen decides to do, but it's a pretty tough position here. If you don't Hades, you're kind of gambling that your opponent doesn't have the Lucky Dime in hand.
And you have so much ink at your disposal that you could, in theory, do both things, as you're going to set up another Fortis Sphere, continue to draw, and now you're getting to all your items after Scrooge McDuck just completely whiffed. So here you are, you continue drawing, you get to the dime anyway.
So if you're
look at that
Tamatoa, okay, now we're cooking. Now we're actually super cooking if we're Moyen. Take a look at his board. Take a look at his items compared to Zan's, right? If this Happy as a Clam quests next turn and puts out the Lucky Dime, the game is over. He's got 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 ink still remaining, so he can play out the shiny Tamatoa this turn. Next turn, he quests with the other Tamatoa. Bing, bang, boom. We Lucky Dime. We quest with our big Tamatoa. Game is over. Next turn, if Zan doesn't win this turn or remove one of these two Tamatoas, he needs to find removal, but he's burned so much. He's burned so very much on Zan's side of the board. Moyen is so happy right now. He's in the position to win the game next turn.
This is going to be a nice little clean Tamatoa Happy as a Clam. It's going to be clean. If Zan can't pull it off, he got very close last time. Let's see if he's got what it takes, as you're only threatening 2, 4. We're going to vision.
Half the vision. Got to get rid of this.
You already burned your Hades. There is no Let It Go in the deck. As we're going to show
Zeus twice, I believe.
Ariel is there too. Every time I see it, it's going to cause so much controversy. I can just feel the controversy is mounting right now, as we are going to get our own Tamatoa.
Tamatoa's not enough. Even with the free Lucky Dime, I don't think so. How much ink does he have?
No, it's not.
He doesn't have the items to support the big Tamatoa right now. So he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lore on board. If he plays the Tamatoa out, surely he can get
hold up, because he has that.
He's got
how much ink does he have? Does he have enough? Can he get up to 14 ink? He cannot. Okay, yeah. So we are going to go ahead and pay the 2. We'll get to another Tamatoa and a Pete, and that is just not going to be enough. And I'm sure Zan can feel the writing is on the wall. Can he play Happy as a Clam, some items, and Tamatoa this turn? I don't think so. I don't think the Fishbone Quill is going to be enough. And it looks like we are going to pay, what is that, 4, 8. We got 8 coming in. The big crab is crabbining. We'll add back the Popsicle.
Yep. The Popsicle goes in the hand.
Play that Popsicle.
It's just not going to be. It's just simply not enough. Moyen is
absolutely
going to win.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, unless he finds a Zeus right now, Sail is not going to get it done. You could potentially. I mean, you can ink. You can ink here. You
can't quest. Put your own dime into play. You can't tap the dime for a total of 1, 2, 3, 4. And quest. How much is that? I don't think that's enough. So that's going to be 2 going. You're going to send out a quest into the Hiram Flaversham. Moyen's like,
he's
don't
challenging.
Care.
He's challenging. Yep. And I mean, if you're challenging, you know you don't have the ability to get over the line. So can you play the Sail here? Draw 1 ink twice with the Fishbone and the Sail? Like, you have to have Zeus, but he's already exerted all his characters. I think maybe he used all of his Zeuses as well. I'm not sure exactly on the number, and it's going to pass over to Moyen, and Moyen's going to win, which is insane.
Dang! So you take down Zan Syed in a 2-game fashion on the play on the draw both times. So that's definitely an indicator that your deck might be a little bit better. I'm not going to say it, as Cogsworth did do a ton of heavy lifting in this matchup, and you did get to the units required. You came out of the gate slow, but you finished strong, and this game is coming to a screeching halt, and the Hades just never got played. You hate to see it.
Yeah.
And we're going to go ahead and get the Popsicle in play, and we're going to continue to rip as Moyen is going to continue to build this arsenal.
The motions here. He's got it. He's got another Fortis Sphere. Why not? Put it onto the board. But it's like It's like I was saying earlier. Like Zan, I don't think was gritty enough. I think you just play the second Tamatoa happy as a clam, get the dime out early, and take control of the game. Like, just put your foot on your opponent's neck, you know, metaphorically, if you can. If you get the chance, don't, like, durdle around and deal with the threats. But I don't know. I'm talking to two, like, champions of champions here. But yeah, maybe that was the move. As the match comes to a close, it was a crazy one for
crazy match.
Sure. It was insane to see Moyen just chain those shiny Tamatoas one after another, gets to the dime, and really, the Cogsworth was so important in both matches. It burned so much of Zan's removal because he had to double up. He had to Zeus Strength, Zeus Storm, right? So you had to use multiple removal songs to get rid of these characters, and then you didn't have them for later in the game. As we do have both players in the booth. Gentlemen, that was a extremely interesting match, and I think we should just do the thing and talk about the aerial from the beginning. Zan, can you just explain that to the viewers? What was going on with the aerial? Was it just a mistake putting it in there? Surely it had to be, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, those of you guys that don't know, I just got back from Wisconsin. There was back-to-back 5Ks there, and so I played in that event, but I actually had to drop on Sunday because I got pretty severe food poisoning.
Ooh, sorry to hear
And
that.
then yeah, so then I was flying back on Monday, but my flight got delayed, like, I don't even know, like 6 hours until they canceled it. And then I managed to get on a flight and basically, you know, woke up maybe 5 minutes before this thing started, and had my deck from you know, my food poisoning tournament, and try to change the stuff up last minute, and I forgot that we had changed a Let the Storm Rage On into a
the aerial.
So as soon as I saw it, I called the judge, and then I was like, the first thing I did was I saw it and I was like, wait, I don't think that this is in this list. So I double checked, and then I was like, okay, yeah, 100% not in this list. Let me call the judge. So then I just called the judge on myself, and then they said that it was going to be inkable for the rest of the match, and then we decided that it was not going to be inkable. So basically, I could use it for Fishbone Quill and nothing else.
Okay, that makes sense.
We did wrap around the whole deck, so you got to see the aerial again.
Yeah.
So, just gonna step in real quick. This is the judge. I know your chat's flaming the hell out of me, but that's fine. In the general sense, for this kind of error, these are two high-level players, and we just really want to see them play. This is the point of the LCCC. Regularly, if we caught this in a match, even if Zan called it on himself, that would be a game loss at that point for him to repair the deck, because it is a deck reg major. We do know that, you know, we've had instances in which a player calls it after the fact, and they say, hey, just letting you know I was playing on an incorrect deck. At that point, we would consider it something else, which would be a disqualification. But since Zan knew and pointed it out immediately, we, for the sake of production, I decided to let them play with the agreements of Moyen. I mean, Moyen was okay with it. We went on. We just want to see the players play. Right. I will take blame on this if the chat is unhappy, but really, you know, you guys got to see two incredible players play against each other.
And that's what we honestly feel that's what we want. And I want to re-emphasize, like, everyone who's jumping up screaming cheater and all that stuff, no one is trying to gain any. These are open deck lists. The players have studied each other's deck lists, so I guarantee you, if Zan exerts 6 ink and plays an aerial and try to gain a competitive advantage, Moyen's going to pick up on that almost immediately. So let's just stop all that kind of stuff. Let's be positive. This is a positive event. These players are giving up their time to come out here and put on this showcase for the world. So let's just end all that kind of talk. That is not the case. We are all humans. Accidents can happen, and that's all I have to say about it.
Yeah. And I just want to say, I said straight up, I was like, hey, if this is a game loss, I'm totally cool with it. And you know, like, the only reason why I wanted to continue playing was just for, you know, just putting on the show. Yeah.
Absolutely.
honest mistake, and called it on myself and was cool with the game loss.
Yeah, I
Absolutely.
totally agree with the assessment from everybody. We want to see the players play, and it ended up being an insane match where you guys went back and forth, and Moyen was able to pull it out in the end by chaining those shiny Tamatoas. So let's kick it over to Moyen, who was able to win this match. How did you feel about it? We were talking up your deck choice. Of course, I don't think you knew you were playing Zan, but you knew you were playing Steel because Kurt, Artabax, and Zan were remaining. You had the Babooms, I got to think, for the Diablo, and then the Cogsworth is just a house in the Steel decks. There's really not much they can do about it, if anything. So can you talk about the Cogsworth and why you decided to go with that and what you thought of the mirror match?
Yeah, sure. So it was basically very difficult to kind of tag for this round because it was like 2 and 3 chance to face Mirror, 1 and 3 to face Diablo, and then cards that tag for Diablo are pretty bad in the Mirror. In the end, with like 2 and 3 chance to face Mirror, I just decided to play at least Babooms instead, so I could ink them if I do have to face the Mirror. And then the rest of the deck's kind of built for both matchups in mind. So Cogsworth's really good in both matchups. I think he's really undervalued by a lot of Sapphire Steel players, where they think he's super slow. But he's actually not if you just have 1 to 2 characters in play when you play him very early, and you can make everything very, very inefficient for your opponent. I even think, I mean, game 2, I took some advantage of like the Flavasham that really, really wanted to draw, but just exerting it to deny that for a little bit and gaining the tempo to do my own stuff. And I think game 1, I even had a situation where I should sing Strength just to deal 4 damage to the Tamatoa, which would enable me to like just get it over with a little bit quicker and not make it so hard on myself to remove it. I think that was a mistake on my part. But yeah, even with the Babooms not being great for this matchup, I felt very good going into it, and well, as good as you can feel when you face a 50-0, but I guess not 50-0 anymore.
Dang. Oh no. Oh man. Oh, not taking shots at the 50 and 0. But can you talk about that game 1, Moyen? There was some turns there where you said you seemed like you had such a I know you kind of touched on it a little bit, but did you feel a little fear? You had so much advantage, you had so much board position, you had so much ink, and Zan was kind of stumbling there. He didn't really have much going on, but he had that dime set up. He had the Tamatoa set up, and he was all of a sudden you look back and he's sitting at 14, 15. How did you feel there? And did you feel like you could have done something a little bit different on that game number 1?
Yeah, I mean, of course it was scary. In a lot of these turns, I was like a song away from dealing with it quite efficiently. But the more ink that I just already spent on trying to get something, the worse I'm off if I don't find anything. So it was like some difficult decisions to see how much do I cycle. Do I just play my own Tamatoa a little bit earlier? Do I maybe go for the out of the Hades? I think I was mostly happy with how I played it.
Okay.
It's like if the dime comes down, then I can, which it did, I can still take out the Tamatoa, and as long as Zan doesn't draw like into another Tamatoa with maybe naturally or Flavasham or Vision, I think I was doing well. But again, I think I missed an opportunity to sing Strength, just for 4 damage on the Tamatoa, just being a little bit too afraid of the Tamatoa challenging into my Cogsworth when I don't think I needed to be.
Absolutely. Okay, I understand. That's I think that's a great point. I still thought you played it very well. I thought the matchup was well. I do think Cogsworth was going to be that difference maker. I think we mentioned that in the pregame show when we were talking about the deck list and how the things came together. I'm sure when Zan, when and we probably can kick it over to Zan here soon. When he saw those Cogsworth in the deck list, he was trying to figure out ways to play around those to account for those. Zan, what do you think about those Cogsworth in this matchup? Was that a card you were looking out for and hoping your opponent didn't get into the play?
Cogsworth was garbage. I was so happy that he played Cogsworth.
Oh, come on.
To be honest, yeah. I mean, the Cogsworth weren't anything, right? Like, so if you think about game 1, Hiram is everything, right? In terms of
Right.
card advantage. Moyen had like 10 cards when I had 1. And so, like, basically, there was a point in the game where I was like, okay, if I find a Visions or a Cogsworth, it exponentially gives me a chance, like increases my chances of winning the game. And so I put myself in a winning position, and I basically just needed to draw one more Tamatoa, or I could have drawn any combination of like Hiram or Visions to probably turn off into a win. And that's all what you can really do. But basically, like if I had as many resources as um as Moyen did, I'm like thinking, oh, if I had more 5 drops, like if I had as many resources and they ended up being 5 drops, I would have taken, I would have taken Beast over um over the
Oh,
Cogsworth,
oh
right?
no, man. That Cosmere seemed like it was strong, man. It was throwing off your strength numbers. It was throwing off some of your challenge stuff. There was some plus values being grabbed with those Scrooge McDucks and things of that sort. I thought Cosmere seemed like it
Well,
was
if you
in a
think
good
about
spot.
game 3, right, it's always going to take you 2 cards to deal with Tamatoa. So like if there were, let's say there was a Cogsworth there, if you think about it, right, I had 6 characters and Long Came Zeus. That takes care of it through 2 Cogsworth, a big Tamatoa, right? So
Hmm.
it didn't change any of my math. The main thing that it came down to was I answered 2 big Tamatoas and I was able to deal with one. Wasn't able to deal with the third one. And then if you look at how many, what I was trying to do was trying to close out the game, right? So I drew a bunch of cards off of Tamatoa, and then all of my Scrooges put all my Tamatoas on the bottom of my deck.
Mm.
And so when you see what happened in that game is I visioned all the way back to the bottom of my deck and found those Tamatoas that I put at the bottom of my deck at the beginning of the game, right? And so the
Right.
whole game became about getting to the bottom. So now let's say Moyen had the same exact situation that happened. If all of his Tamatoas are at the bottom because of Scrooge, that means that it's going to take him a lot longer to get to that point, right? And so what it really came down to was who has the right threats at the right time, but none of those threats were Cogsworth. All of those threats were Tamatoa, Hiram, Tamatoa, right? And
Okay. Okay.
Scrooge to like throw off your Hiram game, right? Like if you quest with Hiram, then you're in danger of losing your Hiram to someone else's Scrooge. So at the end of the day, the threats that really matter are the threats that are in both of our decks. And it's like visions for Cogsworth, it's like looking for the same exact threats. But now if someone is drawing the threats and the other person isn't, everything else is just filler in between finishing the game, you know?
Yeah,
Okay.
I
Okay.
I really like your explanations, and I think it makes a lot of sense. And I got to also say I do appreciate the little bit of the trash talk between you two. I think it's healthy for the game. I think it's healthy for the competitive scene to have the little rivalries, and I think you two players are fantastic. But speaking of which, I mean, you talked about how you thought the Cogsworth was terrible. I'd like to give Moyen the chance to talk about why he thinks the Cogsworth was great.
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, what should I say? I don't think this trash talk was super fun.
Oh, okay.
The reason I talked out about or I spoke up about the 50-0 because I didn't think it was like appropriate advertising. So it's not like fun beef to me. It's just I pointed it out, and that's all for me.
I have a quick question. Did you
Sure.
believe that I didn't 50-0?
No, it's not. So it's not about whether you 50 or not. It's more like
So if I
saying
go
50
50-0,
on advertising a guide that people are paying for without mentioning any of the testing conditions, whether it's like testing against a very good player and all reasonable matchups, whether it's just jamming Lorcanito.
it was just Lorcanito best of one, right?
Yeah. So basically, I think it's fine to use it as your advertising, I do think you should have mentioned the conditions in the tweet.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
without it,
anybody
it's just misleading.
Moyen, me and you are friends. You could have just messaged me on Discord. Hey, what were the conditions that you did it? Right?
Sure.
Like,
Well,
that's what was my issue. I was like, dude, this is like, I'm not like, if I was exaggerating or going like, if I was lying about it, then I totally get it. But in
no.
this instance, I told the truth, and yeah, it was best of one. That was the only thing available to us at the time, and I was just keeping track of my matchups on a Google sheet, and
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it's the end of the world either. I just think it wasn't like appropriate, and so I said it. But going back to the Cogsworth, I think while a lot of the games are not decided by the filler stuff, and they are decided by like Flower Charm, Tamatoas, how quickly can you, like, how much draw do you have, how quickly can you end games with Tamatoas. I do think it's like, I don't think it's reasonable to just say everything in between is just filler and doesn't matter enough. I think there's a lot of nuance in how to generate tempo in between, and even in these games, I mean, it's not that Cogsworth didn't do anything. There was times where it made my Scrooge trade into a Scrooge and survive. Maybe I should even heal it at the point, but there was like a lot of storms gone. So like even there, just made you hard cast another strength. I think all of these small things can really add up. On top of that, like a Tamatoa, I mean, your Tamatoa got Zeus. There's some very good curves where you curve Cogsworth into Tamatoa. I don't think it's like insane and you suddenly can't lose the mirror just because you play Cogsworth, but I do think it's actually a card that both helps the mirror and is a pretty reasonable card in most other matchups.
Absolutely. I agree. But gentlemen, I know it's getting a little chaucy, man. But let's keep this thing respectable and professional, man. I'm sure you guys are good friends, and you guys can work it out. I would hope that you can keep this relationship going because we want to keep it. We do like a little bit of edge. Everyone doesn't have to be the best of friends, but in these types of venues, man, you guys both have an additional responsibility, whether you like it or not, because you both are in media. You both have these very successful podcasts, very successful programs. A lot of people look up to both of you. So I would personally, from me to you, I would appreciate you guys to just make sure you have a little bit of candor and respect for each other at all times, man. Let's just keep this thing super light and super professional and fun, man, because that's the end of the day. You guys have to understand how you guys carry. So whether you agree or disagree or like or dislike, let's keep that in between the lines or in the private messages, man. This is the LCCC, and we're here to support the community for sure.
Yeah, if I just can say one more thing,
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I mean, I never I don't think I said anything too bad, but still, I had. I mean, I have a feeling maybe I over-exaggerated at times, or maybe like I reacted too harshly, and I think it's fair from Zan to say maybe I should have just reached out. To me, I personally almost felt like you're smart enough, or like, I don't know, maybe that I thought you kind of knew what you were doing, and I didn't like it. But you're right. I should have just talked to you first, and I apologize for that.
Oh, dude, it's all good. I mean, I just had such a wonderful time with you, and I was just like I just felt like, dang, I feel like we had enough of a friendship to just talk to each other about it.
Yeah, I didn't mean to start any beef.
I was definitely not trying. I like this was the day before we went to SSG, and Lorcanito came out that day, and I legit was just super excited that I wasn't losing with the deck, right? Obviously, it's best of one, and this is before like it's properly matching you with people that are the same elo as you, right? Sometimes you're getting paired against 1200, and you know it does take luck and skill in those situations to be able to reach that number. It's just I just felt like, dang, like I just felt bad because yeah, I just felt like me and you had that channel to be able to talk to each other about it. And I'm like totally open to any type of criticism. Like, dude, I respect so much. Like, um, like me building this blue steel deck, I don't think I could have done it without, like a lot of the knowledge that I gained from you. Remember, like going back to Seattle, it's like I told you, I was like, I think blue steel is a weakness of mine. I don't understand how to build it properly. So when we spent a ton of time testing together, like I learned a lot about how to construct blue steel in a more proficient way. And yeah, so I'm glad that we got a chance to talk about it. I'm so glad that you won and that you're going to be playing in the next round.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's the energy, man. So again, you just keep it light, man, and keep it tight. I respect both of you guys so much. You have no idea. And just coming into the program and just being here and giving your time to this and the Garrick's Lorcana Lair being here, it's been a really great. Zan, I had the opportunity to sit down with you in an interview. I loved everything you have to say. I love your approach to the game. I do hope you're feeling better after getting 2-0'd by Buffalo Wild Wings. I heard they kind of did a number on you down there in Fond du Lac, and hopefully you're feeling a lot better. But still, you sat down at the table, you did what you had to do. I saw you still signing autographs and engaging with the community, even though you weren't feeling well. And I personally, I do appreciate you doing that, man. You are a consummate professional, so I enjoy that you guys were able to find some resolution here in this little situation. And maybe following on, you guys can continue to engage behind the scenes, and hopefully it continues to work out. But Garrick, I'm sure you got some things that you want to say. This is the Lorcana Lair here.
No, I mean, I think we sorry, go ahead, Zan.
I was just gonna say thank you.
Of course.
That was one of the most fun interviews I've done, and yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're both awesome. Moyen's awesome. I want to give you guys the chance to say any final thoughts about the matchup or do any shout outs. Where can we find you? Where can we get more Zan? Where can we get more Moyen? Let's start with Moyen.
Yeah, so I do a weekly podcast with Kawa and Brandon about Lorcana, which is called Podcana. And then recently, so I've been traveling for like a week now, but before that, and I think after that again, I've been streaming some webcam games on both Podcana's YouTube and my own Twitch, which is Moyen_HS. My Twitter is Moyen_HS as well. I hope to see you there. I did also start a Metafy recently, and there's a guide out on Blue Steel that you guys can check out. And I hope you guys like it. And thanks everyone for watching, and the casters and the judge. And thanks, Zan, for playing.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I just want to say, thank you to Pavel, of course, and thank you to the casters and the judges. Yeah, if you want to check me out, you can go to my YouTube channel, Zan Sayed. We do a podcast on there as well. Yeah, that's about it. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. And thank you, gentlemen, again, both for sacrificing your time to come out here and participate in the LCCC. And Moyen, you will go on to the winners finals. I think you'll be facing off against Artabax. That is a known entity, but Zan, it is not over for you. You still have a chance. You can get your revenge here, as you are going to go down to the dog town. I don't like to call it the losers bracket. What you call it, the down bracket. You're not a loser. You just lost, and you still have an opportunity to rebut yourself. So I'm excited to see how you continue to negotiate the rest of this tournament. I will be watching with great interest. So you are one of my favorite players, and I'll be interested to see how you're going to bounce back from this.
Yeah. So with that said, I mean, it was a great match. It was a really interesting match. It was back and forth, both the first game and the second game, where both players seemed to be in the inverse position of the other, one with a million cards, one holding on to just a few, but Moyen was able to take it in a 2-0, a really interesting match, a high-level match, despite the aerial fiasco, which we got cleaned up. Thank you to Phil for taking care of that and not issuing a game loss where I don't think it was deserved, and both players were able to come to an agreement there, and we got to see the rest of game 2, which was an amazing game to watch from start to finish. I also appreciate the players coming together, speaking candidly about the situation and about the decks in general, as well as the 50-0 situation. It was nice to get a clear up of that, a bearing of the hatchet. And like you said, JZZ, these are two great players, and them coming together and building decks is just better for the community and better for the game overall. JDZ, right. I want to thank you for being on my channel today. It was an amazing watch. Both players are still live in this tournament. Moyen in the upper bracket and Zan will be in the lower bracket. So both players could meet up again in a potential final. So stay tuned to the LCCC. I again want to say thank you to Pavel. Thank you to Phil for being here, stepping in, and making the right decision in my mind, despite what some dissenters may say in the chat. So again, thank you to Moyen, thank you to Zan, thank you to JDZ, thank you to Phil, thank you to Pavel. For everybody else, I am Garrick. This has been the Legendary Cross Continental Clash, Moyen versus Zan Syed, and we will see you guys in the next one.
Boom.